April 5th, and it is 1:07 PM. Present are Barry, Lucy,
Here.
Ellie,
Here.
Janet,
Here.
June here, and we have our town admin, Kristen Rubin, and our highway superintendent, Fred Cummings. So thanks, everybody, for being here. We had,
And you are subject to being recorded
okay,
as a public meeting.
yes, we are being recorded.
Thank goodness.
So on our agenda, we only have 2 items to discuss, but one of them certainly, maybe both of them, but the Hancock discussion, definitely, it's wonderful that you're both here, because I have, this is a technical proposal, and none of us here we don't have the skill set to review it with a lot of confidence, so.
This is the people that are supposed to do a detailed plan of the property, right?
And to find out what we can do about any drainage issues.
Yeah.
Up top and down the driveway and the whole area, actually. Not for the Bullard House itself in the interior, but the whole area. The site, yep.
Including the parking lot up above.
Oh,
right?
yes, yes,
When
especially that.
I was reading it, initially I thought, oh, it's just, but it's for the driveway, the parking lot, and the drainage down next to the
Right.
house.
Wouldn't it be a good idea to have some more people who might have been, who were on the town hall when they were doing that, have a group of people, because they were the ones making the decisions on this, and here we are holding the bag for what was done in the past, and I think that it would be nice to have someone else besides just us.
We had the plan at that time. I was
Mhm,
sitting in
yeah.
on those meetings. And it was actually the completion of the parking lot and drainage and stuff was part of the bid package
Mhm.
as an option. And it was gonna cost about $100,000. And it was, we ultimately opted not for that option because we didn't have enough money to pay for it. And we had the money from the state, so we had to move, and that had a limited time. So we had to move to get the elevator in and all of that, and the piece that we didn't do was the parking lot.
But the plan has all that drainage.
But there was a plan for it, which is in our Dropbox that we've had on our project. Have you seen that plan? Can you
I've
find
only
it if
seen
I
the,
open up if I get in here? I don't know how to get into the Dropbox.
I think I can find it, but I'm wondering if that's a good idea to do right now.
Okay.
Well, if you want it, sure.
No, we'll
I
we'll
mean-
get it. You need to have it.
He needs, I can email him the whole zip drive, and then,
What's the name of that plan that we're looking for?
it's Austin Design. It's for the town hall, the 1870 Town Hall edition.
Because it was not ultimately done, it isn't in the set of plans that is generally around about the building, because we didn't ultimately go ahead and do it. So, but it was in the plans that they developed, and it was in a bid package. So,
Yeah, they have it, I've sent it to them twice,
Who's they?
Hancock,
oh, okay.
all right? But I don't get any response, I don't get any feedback that they'll have a look at it.
Okay.
You'd think they would, because that would take a lot of the legwork out of it, not
Yeah,
reinventing
well,
the wheel.
that's certainly why Barry, wanted them to have a look at it.
Well, that was my next question. Are these plans still good? Are they still up to date? I mean, do we have to do an awful lot more work on that, to try and redesign it?
I don't know the answer to that. I would think not.
They're not anymore?
There's one design for the parking lot that shows it with a couple of drains in the lot as dry wells. And there's another one that has those as catch basins with a line down to the catch basin across the street,
Right up
the
front.
end of the church driveway,
Yeah.
which again ties it to the whole group up in the center village there. I know Keith was, needless to say, thought that was what we should be doing, so that it really takes care of everything.
Well, our paving project actually had something similar, so once we had paved up there, there would have been a berm coming down the lowering side.
Yeah.
To keep the water off that property.
Yeah.
And put a catch basin at the bottom, and basically tied in the same spot.
Well, I guess we're not sure that all of our previous work has been looked at. Anyway,
This is the Hancock
And
thing?
are we saying that it's in the Dropbox if we wanted to look for it?
the zip drive, the Austin design is in the
Austin
Dropbox.
design.
Yep, yep.
And that's what we're talking about, is the
Yeah.
Austin design.
Well, just as a forerunner to help Hancock with, with the current work.
Right, right.
Yeah. I wanted to, just look at the proposal that we signed with Hancock. It's the A01,
That's what I was just looking at.
and, we've received an invoice for that.
Oh, okay.
Do you have that, Fred?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that.
Okay. We've received an invoice for $1,200, but there is a little, number 4 here under the scope that says that we should have a little report.
I was just noticing that, and I was gonna ask, because I haven't seen the report.
You're right, and that's really what I was referring to when I came to see you that day.
Oh, okay.
But then later, when I realized that I didn't see Kristen's forward of the new Phase B proposal. And I think that in my mind, I think I thought perhaps that's what number 4
The
was, but it
report was,
isn't.
But it's not, it's
But it's
another
not.
proposal.
Right.
Okay.
So-
And I thought they had sent the proposal directly to you, so I think we
Yeah,
crossed
yeah.
our wires a little bit.
Well, I dropped the ball on that one.
That's all right.
I thought it was the same old one as A01.
So before you pay that invoice, we
Yeah.
need to see a report.
That's right. I sent him an email this morning, Jacob, who is the specific engineer who's working on this, and I said that, will it be forthcoming? Because we have received we have received the invoice. And I told him we would be reviewing the Phase B proposal today also. But I haven't I just sent it early this morning, so I haven't had a reply. But I don't think we should pay the bill until he either explains or we have this little report. I mean, it doesn't amount to much, it just says a short letter or an email.
Yeah.
So we can hold off on that. I did get the bill ready, but we'll just
Can I ask
wait.
what, I read that too, and I was wondering, what is the report that we're expecting? What are they going to report on?
They're gonna report on the scope for A01, which is, anything, I guess, that would stick out as being, what's the word?
Additional.
Additional. I mean, he's supposed to review the Title V inspection, and now I don't think he needs to review the conceptual site improvement plans by Mogul, because we didn't adopt any of those.
Okay. I read it to mean that it was an initial consultation, review of the documents that had been done to date, in order to understand where we're at and where we need to go in terms of looking at the larger drainage issues on the site. So they were looking at what had been done, with respect to the Bullard House site specifically. so they can decide, you know, where to go next. So
And
that's your like fact-finding mission,
Right.
basically, is what I would call it.
reviewing the zoning to.
Yep.
And,
Title V,
Yeah.
So it would
surveys.
basically be their conclusions of their initial assessment.
are
Right.
we in good shape to go forward?
So on the, yeah, exactly, on the
yeah.
Phase A, and where do we go? Because they wanna make use of existing resources, right? They don't wanna duplicate efforts, so they wanna look at what's been done to date and make a determination on what additional work, if any, or what additional work they will need to do, because we know there will be more, since we're not just looking at the water sitting on the site around the foundation at the Bullard House, you're also looking at what's coming down the hill from 1870. So it's broadening the scope.
Yeah.
So that's what they're basically, this is their review of documents in order to prepare a full scope, which is what you get with the Phase B
Right,
proposal.
right. So we can just hold on that for a bit. And I'm hoping that everyone has done their best to look at this Phase B.
I do have a couple questions on that one.
Yeah, the O1, the soil testing, I just wanted to make a note that our funds have to pay for the excavating contractor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's additional to the 1,200 for a scope for the BO1. And I just my old, I guess it's past familiarity with protocols in archaeology, I totally understand why they have to do the soil testing. You have to know, if you have clay or loam or sand or a
Yeah,
combination.
that's standard.
And so I get that.
The one thing that I, in talking to people about this is that it could take a few weeks for the soil testing to just, schedule it. It could take 2 to 3 weeks to schedule it and get it done. Would I be correct with that? That's,
We've never had that.
you've never had it done. That's what, well, someone who has had it done was telling me that. Someone who's has done this kind of work. It could take a while to schedule it. So you have to tack that on too, because that's the first thing that they talk about, getting in touch with the excavator, which would be Paul, if we could, when we can get a hold of him.
Has he done soil tests? I mean, Paul
I don't know.
Wheeler, do you think
I'm
he's,
not sure. I just saw him actually prior to coming
Yeah.
here.
But that's, you have to, no, I don't think he does it. I think you have to hire someone to do that.
so we don't need Paul Wheeler?
We need to hire the excavator, it sounds like.
Yep.
But the excavator could be Paul.
It
If you
could
have
be.
to leave
Correct.
it out to
It could be.
But it's a little unclear on the actual testing, if that's being done by Hancock, right? Or is the excavator just giving access to the soil and then doing the testing is actually being done by the engineering firm? I think that's something that you wanna clarify there. Cause obviously an I can't say that word, excavator is not qualified to do
No.
soil testing necessarily.
Yep. So there's two pieces there. There's a contractor who does soil testing, and there's the person who actually digs the hole.
Correct, and I think that this scope's a little light, in my opinion, on, you need to know, like, how many holes are we talking about? Because in order to get a quote from an excavator, you need to give them a scope of what they're doing, right? Are we digging 1 hole, are we digging 10? I mean, there's going to be a variation on cost depending on exactly what they're doing, so.
And how deep do we need to go?
Correct, I think we need some additional clarification from Hancock on that description there, would be my recommendation, because I'm not really sure what they're talking about. They're just saying, hire an excavator, do soil testing.
Right,
Well, that's
like-
nice, but,
We had to make test holes up for the new highway garage.
Yep.
We had to have like 7 different holes in different areas.
Right.
Depending on the
Yeah.
area involved, it's gonna be multiple.
Was that for the, but the testing for this would be for the tank, right? The septic
No,
tank?
no, it's
No,
not for the
this-
tank.
No, this isn't for that.
Doesn't have anything to do with the tank.
Yeah, this is probably just to find out what type of soil's there to see what's.
This is for the
How
general
well, how well
drainage of
will
the
it
whole
drain?
site.
How well
Correct.
will it drain? Is it sand or whatever?
Is it clay, yeah. If it's
Also, it
ledge-
may be that the contractor is the person who decides how many holes and where.
Well, why don't we talk to somebody that knows about this? We've got a bunch of questions here, don't we?
Well, we need to talk to Hancock and
Mhm.
get some clarification.
I was actually just gonna say, I wonder if you would like, and I'd be happy to participate, to schedule a call with Hancock to have that conversation, because it's a little bit unclear to me in looking at that Phase B1 item, or what I would call Task 1 on the scope,
Sure.
as to exactly what they're referring to. You know, and I'm not, again, not an expert, but in looking at this, I also wanna make sure that we're keeping their focus on the drainage. And this soil testing sounds right in my mind with what you're doing, but, you know, they're preparing kind of grading. It looks like the next step in preparing the site plan would be the next step to go as well. I think we just need a little bit of clarification.
I think that it would be, if we're gonna do that, if we're gonna meet with them, since we, I'll admit that we don't have all the answers and we might not understand what they're saying, I would like to have somebody else who knows what they're talking about attend the meeting.
Who would
Yeah.
that be?
That would be quite a few people that I know that have done soil testing. I mean,
Well,
I can,
I'm
you know,
not,
I
I'm
don't
not
think
I'm
it's
not
the-
opposed to having an additional person, but the more people you involve,
Harder it is to
the
stay.
harder it is to, you know, if you have one person that you have a lot of confidence in, to me, that would be probably optimal.
There's
but-
somebody from conservation, a possibility.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
do they know? I don't think that, I think you want somebody who's done the work.
Engineering or, construction, I would say, more so than conservation. I mean, and it does lend itself to a bigger discussion, which I'm not trying to derail your but you and I talked about the project manager or having somebody that
That's right.
oversees, that has, and I don't know if that's what you're kind of getting at.
That's what I'm getting at.
Okay,
That's,
Well, a project manager is not doesn't have the skills to vet this, though.
if you got somebody with a construction or engineering background, which would be,
Mhm.
I think, your goal in doing like a clerk or a project manager, I would say that person would, ideally, but.
Ideally, yes.
The
Yeah.
CSL would have experience.
Or an engineer, because an engineer can speak engineer, if you will, and work with the contractor,
Speak
or
the
the consultant.
lexicon,
They,
yeah.
they speak the language,
Yeah.
you know?
CSL might not, when they're just usually above ground.
That's true.
you know, I
So
do know
maybe a more
people
engineer.
that, I do know people that have that. I mean, we've talked to them, I mean, and you know, my brother, he knows what he's talking about with the soil testing, he's talked about that. They understand it far more than we do. And they talk to the people who have done this work, so they do understand it. And I know you don't want an awful lot of people, and maybe, you know, one person is what you need, but we need someone, I mean, they could give us a song and a dance, and we'd think, oh, yeah, that's great. And not understand the thing that they're saying, so I think we need at least one more person who's got the technical ability and the experience.
Okay, I don't want to be tasked with finding that person,
I'll
so-
find him. I'll find that
Okay,
person.
but the person would need to have an engineering background. This is civil engineering,
Right,
it's not,
I'll find that person.
okay. I would agree that engineering is probably best, as you said, because CSL is mostly above ground.
Now, is this pretty much just for soil testing, or is this for other?
that's as far as we've gotten.
Right,
as
Yeah.
far as-
yeah, right,
Okay,
yeah, we
all
started kind of
All right, yeah.
taking a tangent there.
I'm so impatient.
But, no,
I
but I
know.
think in general, to help with the drainage, I mean, you also have an extensive background in doing drainage work, because you've done it obviously through road work
Right.
as well.
Yeah, but our stuff basically stops at competent person, where it's just soil classifications. It's not actually how this is gonna specifically drain this one. It's just whether or not, if we dig a hole in the ground, we'll be able to identify, you know, unexcavated material versus something that's been previously dug up. So we know how to protect ourselves with shore.
Right.
that's where our level usually stops at.
Yeah.
I think engineer is where you're talking for this, but I mean, I can tell you with my basic knowledge of project management on the non-engineering side, I personally would like a little bit of clarification on task one as I look at it.
Yeah, it's not terribly clear.
Especially if we're
You
paying a
wanna hire an
contractor.
engineer to help you talk to the engineering firm.
You're talking about having someone volunteer to help, right?
Yeah.
Not pay,
Who has that
engineering background.
engineering background? Mhm.
Well, I think that's probably part of a broader discussion. I don't know if you wanna finish this
Yeah,
proposal
yeah, we
first.
need
I'm
to
not trying
see
to
what else
hijack
we-
your meeting.
No,
Sorry.
it's all good, it's all good. But it looks, so, do you conclude from this that we have to hire the contractor?
The excavator, yes, but it's
But
a little
We
unclear
don't
on
know,
who's doing
we
the
don't know if
soil
the,
testing.
yeah, whether the contractor is a separate person from the person who digs the hole.
Yeah, I think that if I read this the way I think it is, it sounds like we're paying the contractor to excavate and Hancock's doing yeah, absolutely, and Hancock's doing the testing. But I don't know, or we're paying someone to do the testing, so that's where I think we need the clarification and we should make a phone call. That's easy
Okay.
enough to ask that question.
Okay,
Yeah,
Can I
local,
ask another question? I don't want to, if this isn't the right time to ask it, that's fine, but I'm listening to a lot of things that are sort of really are bordering, if not completely, in the technical department.
mhm.
And have we thought about a project manager who would, instead of us sitting here trying to be the project managers, does it make any sense to actually hire somebody to do some of this kind of thing? Or is that,
it makes
is
perfect sense.
it wasting money? Is
and-
there somebody, you
No,
know, do
it's
we want to
not.
mix and match
It's
people?
not a
Well,
waste of
we
money.
do
But
need-
I think that this discussion also needs to start with us, because we're the ones spending the money. I don't want someone that we're hiring deciding how to spend our money, if you know what I mean. I think they need to guide us and advise us, but ultimately, it's us who needs to make the decisions on how we want to go forward.
People who've worked with project managers, do you find that project managers try to take over completely and make all the decisions? Or is it, would we have a voice in the decisions, but they have the expertise?
That's how I would view it. They bring you their recommendations and you can discuss them and ask any questions that you have. Or they look at something like this and they ask the questions that we're saying, oh, who's doing the testing? Okay, what is the extent of the scope on the excavator? And, they actually would be doing the legwork that June and I are trying to do in communicating with the engineer and speaking engineer. I mean, and I've worked on enough projects that I can certainly do this to an extent when it gets very technical. That gets a little outside of my wheelhouse, but going through this particular scope, there definitely are some things I see that I would question myself. I think you probably wanna have a broader conversation about a project manager, but what I'm thinking from my perspective is if you just have any other questions and kind of get through this
Yeah,
scope and then.
We need to deal with this right now, but,
Could I just
but
add one other thing?
concurrently, we do need a project
Yeah.
manager.
Yeah.
Or a clerk of the works for, maybe not for this, but perhaps for our foundation.
And I think you interview your project manager and you find out if they're willing to hear our voices as well,
Absolutely.
And I think that's what, Ellie, you're worried about, and I think it's legitimate to say, oh my gosh, we've hired this person and they're not doing it the way
Yeah, they're kind
we
of
even
going off on
envisioned.
their own.
But what do you
No,
think,
you're
Fred? You've
paying
worked
them,
with these
so-
things.
So the idea of the project manager is you guys are the main voice, and this person's acting on your behalf to assure that everything is being done the way it's spelled out in your contract or your agreement or whatever. So they're ultimately responsible if something did not get done, because you hired them to do that for you. If something has to be decided on right away, as long as it was already discussed between you guys, they go ahead and say, yes, you need to do this, or no, we have to come back to it. A project manager would be the way to go, so that way it doesn't take up your time. And when their work is being done, they can be there, to make sure it's getting done. Cause we have it, like when the bridge job starts, either we supply it or Mass DOT will supply someone to be on the job, make sure everything's being done the way it's supposed to be done.
Is that, would that person be a clerk, have a certified supervisory license?
If the state does, yeah.
Okay.
So-
They have to be there, everyone signs in every day, with all their information, so they know who's on the job, what's being done.
Okay.
Do you think we need a clerk of the works, or is it project man? I think at one point you had said a project manager would be sufficient, because it's not a huge project.
Well, they're different, I mean.
Well, they are different.
They are a
but-
little different, and I've kind of been thinking about this since we talked.
Mhm.
There are firms that do this. The one that you and I have worked a lot with is VHB, and I like them a lot. They're a little pricey. I have also worked with a firm called Howard Stein Hudson. They're also civil engineers, and they do project management, and they are licensed, they are insured. This is what they do. They have a firm, because the one thing that I did do is I spoke with town council and said, you know, what are the qualifications or requirements if you're gonna have somebody, either a clerk or a project manager, whatever you wanna call it, they should be licensed and insured, because especially if they're going out and doing any type of site visit, oversight, you know, they're gonna be physically there on site when the work is being done. If something goes wrong, and, you know, that's not saying we would, but the town were to come after them because they do something incorrectly and they're not licensed or insured,
Yeah, no.
then we have a problem. So it is spending some money, and I, that's why I almost advocate looking at this on a bigger scale and not kind of piecemealing it, because you get economies of scale when you look at the project from a larger perspective and you do a little more work. And I think you're at the point right now with the foundation and the drainage where I think you have some differing opinions about where to go.
Yep,
I think this would be a good time to bring in a third party to kind of look at it and say, this is what I think we should do. And then also you have the more kind of bigger comprehensive piece that we're looking at with the ARPA money, the 55,000 in the ARPA money that's for Bullard in 1870. And that's really flexible money. That money was set aside for improvements to Bullard in 1870. So that could be, I mean, drainage, we talked about parking, we talked about the front stairs. Obviously, there's not going to be enough money there to do all of that, but the select board deliberately left that money really open-ended, so that whatever is determined by the experts can be done, or at least a portion of that funding can be put toward it. I think you've got two issues here. I think you have water on the site itself, from what I'm understanding and from what I'm hearing here. And you also have the water coming down the hill from 1870. So it may make sense to move forward with fixing the drainage around the building, but my concern is you now have someone who's looking at it on a larger, kind of more comprehensive scale, and I wanna make sure, you know, all those people are working together and all those pieces are working
Yeah.
together, which is also why I, you know, grabbed Fred yesterday, because now we have the Complete Streets project, which is gonna do some sidewalks and streets. And I assume there's gonna be some drainage in the streets as part of that,
The drainage wasn't brought up.
Oh, the drainage
It was
wasn't, okay.
Strictly sidewalk improvement.
sidewalk improvement, okay. So it's doing basically walkability and bikeability, if you will, around, the downtown area. So you're talking Carter to Woodward over to 62. So that whole kind of area. And I know parking is a big issue there too. You know, so the firm actually that helped us write the grant and got the $500,000 grant for is Howard Stein Hudson. So it might make sense, because they're already looking comprehensively at the whole downtown, to have them also look at 1870 and Bullard, because they have a familiarity with the area now. And it may be worth a conversation with them just to say, what would you charge to do this type of, do you wanna call it project management, do you wanna call it clerk of the works? Clerk of the works is on site doing the hardcore oversight of the construction. And I know you're ready to go out to bid pretty much with the foundation and the drainage work, although there's a little bit of a disagreement on the approach.
Ready is a questionable word.
Fair enough. You're getting closer.
closer, yeah.
And I'm just wondering if this might be a good time to have that
Yeah,
outside person kind of take a look. You can also, we talked about volunteering, and you may have somebody who's an engineer that might be able to help us as well. If it's someone who's not paid, you know, we don't have to have the licensure and insured if it's someone who's just acting in an advisory capacity. But at the same time, I know it costs money and we wanna be thrifty and I understand that. But I also think it's important to, depending on what you want this person to do. If you just want them to give advice and look at proposals and that kind of thing, that's one thing. If you want them on site supervising work, really have to have that licensure and insurance, because, you know, I have to tell you, I went through this, we had a fire station that was built that ended up flooding the neighborhood because the project was designed improperly. The retention ponds did not work the way they were supposed to. They never fully drained because they were built below the water table. Yes, see, I mean, obvious things. And unfortunately, the contractor sued the designer, we sued the designer, the contractor sued the town. It became a whole messy thing. Fortunately, everybody was licensed and insured, and we were all able to work it out because the neighborhood was up in arms. So God forbid something happens to an adjacent property, something happens to the building itself. You know, you just need to make sure you have that recourse to be able to, you know, go after it and seek funding to remediate the issue, because we ended up getting almost $600,000 to redo all the drainage and the site work. That's what had to be done to fix the neighborhood. So unfortunately, people make mistakes. There is human error. We are not all perfect. And you don't have recourse if you have somebody on site who's not licensed or insured.
So it's kind of an insurance policy.
It really is. And I hate to say it, but in this day, with people being sue happy, I mean, the neighbors were threatening to sue the town because their whole backyards are like swimming pools. You know, I mean, literally trees were uprooting in people's backyards.
I
It was
think
that wet.
insurance is a good idea.
It's not a bad thing. And as much as, you know, I understand we're a community and we don't think like that, this is a $17 million business. So someone's gonna come after the town too. They're not necessarily gonna go after just the contractor. They're gonna go where the deep pockets are, and the
Yeah.
town is where the deep pockets are at,
For sure.
so.
It's good you have this experience to share. with.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just
No.
have, but, and I'm not contradicting anything that you're saying, but if someone wanted to volunteer, the town could actually pay for their insurance too, on a short-term basis. I've done a little bit of research into that.
The
and that's something-
town could pay for their insurance?
Civil insurance, yeah.
Oh, you're talking about,
Volunteers, I'm just throwing that out. That is something
for a
that-
specific project?
Yeah.
Are you talking about doing a, like a performance bond kind of thing, or a, what's it called,
Well, I don't know what a performance bond is.
not a performance bond.
I know
can't think
Barry's
of what the
getting
word
upset
is.
here. I can see that, but, you know, it's good to be
He's
able
having a
to
good morning.
discuss things. Did you not have a good morning, Barry?
I mean, they would need to have their own insurance and insure the town
Something
as
written
additionally
yesterday
insured, but we can get what's called project builder's risk insurance. Is
Yeah.
that what you're
That probably is.
thinking of? Yeah.
Yeah.
But builder's risk insurance, usually it's a large scale project where, you know, you're building like a fire station. You might be able to get it for smaller projects. I've not looked into that.
Just something to throw out,
Sure.
throw out there.
No, it's
So a
worth-
project manager can be equally protected from suit and all that sort of thing, as a, what's the other one, project
Clerk of the
manager?
Clerk of the Works.
Clerk of the Works, thank you. As a clerk of the works, or, I mean,
Well,
It depends. They have kind of
They'd have
different.
to have the education to be licensed.
Correct, the
Yeah.
education,
Okay.
the licensure, and the insurance. And I think the definition is, does it go into, the difference is, does it go into construction oversight? Or are you just doing what June and I are essentially doing and trying to advise the group on whether to proceed with proposals? It's one thing to, you know, do that work of looking at advising architects and engineers. It's another thing to have somebody go out and say, yeah, you're not putting that drainage in right over there. Like, I can't do that, you know, you'd have to have someone licensed and insured.
Is this
Piece of me
something-
wants to go back and get the bid documents for the town hall job that has the option on it for the parking lot. And those documents, plus the plan for that, need to be upfront for people to be dealing with. I mean, how much more planning do we have to do? We had it to the point where it was in a bid document for building it. I wouldn't think we need an awful lot more developed to get that part of it done. And if that's done properly and takes care of the water from up back, the problems at the Bullet House are much less.
I was gonna say, did those plans envision the drainage problems that we're having now? Or was that
They were
kind of?
developed to help solve it.
Okay.
Well, I was gonna say, was the drainage problem happening before that, so that covered that issue?
That was my great disappointment about losing the parking lot, is that we didn't clean that problem up, that we expected it to be done then.
Okay, so I think, and part of what they're doing, and my understanding is obviously you've sent them that plan, is part of their review, because they have to review the background materials in order to get up to speed, is looking at that as well. I think in our call that we would have with them, I think that's a specific question that would be asked, is, you know, what are your impressions?
Right.
Because that plan that was done, granted it's a few years old, but it anticipates the drainage issues and maps it out. So how can you make use of that so that we don't have to duplicate efforts?
Yeah, so 7 or 8 years ago.
Yep.
We've already
Not a
spent
long
money
time
on it
ago.
once, we don't wanna
Correct.
spend it on it again.
No.
And that's the one that's in the Dropbox, the Austin plans, Barry?
The plan for it is in the Dropbox. I don't know if the bid document stuff is, though.
No, definitely
Oh.
not. I would, it's only me who puts stuff in there
Yeah.
most of the time, so unless someone else had
Those
access
should
to
be
it.
somewhere in the select board's files.
And this is a plan for, what's a plan, how would you describe this plan?
That was the parking lot and drainage
Parking.
issues for the
For the
1870
1870 Town Hall
Hall.
project.
It
Okay.
didn't
Right,
envision the
right.
Bullard House, but it affects the Bullard House.
Right,
Yeah.
because you don't put a parking lot in until you look at drainage.
And
So-
we had planned that whole thing as a way to stop the water from up there coming down the hill.
Is that when the curatorial was done or the elevator? Is that when the curatorial was done or the elevator?
Both,
Well,
Was that all
they were all
part of
one
that
job.
thing?
yeah.
It was the plans for the town hall job, but the curatorial building was part of that plan.
But ours was finished after,
Ours was finished
Oh, yeah,
afterward.
with Assabet help.
The concrete work was done as part of the town hall job, but then Alphabet built our building for us afterwards.
Can I back up for just a minute and ask again, what's the business that was going to possibly help us as sort of a, not a clerk of the works, but you named a name, and I
Oh,
can't remember.
I
what
was,
it
I was suggesting just to get a price from Howard Stein Hudson, or HSH is their,
And that's
No.
who you
Where are they
with.
from?
Yeah, we've worked with them to develop the Complete Streets program.
so the fact that they're already in that area, they've gained some familiarity with it, they're
Yeah.
not starting cold.
And what could
There
you
might be
just-
some
oh,
savings
sorry.
there.
Could you describe again what we would be asking them to do?
Either some type of project management / clerk of the works type of work.
And it,
And I'd ask them to kind of define it depending on, I'd ask them to just take a look at the proposals we have here and give us a recommendation on what they think they
We
could do
need.
to assist us and what
Yeah.
we need, given the fact that we're all lay people.
And if they are willing to do it, it'd be a good idea to share that drainage plan with them already.
Yep.
So they can see what's already been developed.
I know I have it somewhere. Can you send it to me again so I don't have to go digging for it?
The Austin design?
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
We need to isolate
The
that
parking.
stuff out of this big package of stuff so that we can actually look at what the pieces.
Yeah, I was gonna say, cause
Well-
then you're paying someone to go
Yeah.
through hundreds of, or tens of pages. But if you can pull out the parking lot plan from the design and anything they have related to the parking lot, cause I assume that would include drainage, in that area.
and what is the scope on that, I mean, on doing the drainage? I'm trying to picture these people coming in and helping us, and, how much time will it take to do this? Will it then lead to another aspect that will also be added on? Do you know what I'm saying? How big is this,
We don't know.
this HSH involvement? Do you,
Well, we don't know,
Mhm.
but Hancock, the engineering firm, is proposing the soil testing followed by a step 2, which is to get permitting and come up with a site plan. So they would actually design whatever improvements need to be done, and I think to your point, which is very valid, there's already been design, so that would be your starting point. And hopefully, there wouldn't have to be
They
anything
might
much done.
need to do a little bit more with the land immediate to the bullet house.
I was just gonna say, right, with an eye to the site more comprehensively, but you already have a jumping off point, which can save you a lot there. So they're proposing, preparing basically the site layout that looks at grading, stormwater management, drainage. So they're basically proposing how to address that site as a whole, and then looking at how those elements would lend themselves to moving forward with parking and pedestrian
Okay,
access.
does that also cover the retaining walls? Does it-
No.
does it
It's
mention
not
that?
addressing the retaining walls, no.
Would that have to be addressed at the same time?
Well, that's part of that plan. That retaining wall is in the plan.
Yeah, but.
Well,
I'm
it's
just saying
grading and
that-
drainage, so I mean,
So I think the thought was that we were gonna have to pull out the parking lot so that we could get in the turnaround space.
is the
Which
retaining,
would require a retaining wall.
oh, in the back, oh, if they thought a retaining wall needed to be there, they would recommend that or design that as
Well, I
part
think
of the plans.
We're not saying that they're gonna recommend it, we think that it
It's in the existing plan.
needs to be done.
Yeah.
It's in the existing plan.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it
that would
is,
be
it
part
is,
of,
yeah.
you know, what they would be putting forward for design, if that's,
Because I think one of the concerns was the retaining wall that's going to abut the neighbors, right?
Yeah. They're not upset about it.
No.
I've talked to them about that.
But they need to be included in
That
the
they need to be
discussion.
included in
Yeah.
the discussion.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, the retaining wall facing the Bullard House isn't a concern, but facing the neighbor, I think, would be more of a concern.
Yeah, the back
It
end.
only
yeah.
comes a little way in front of the front of their garage.
Most of
Their
it is
barn.
behind it.
And their barn, the front of their barn is slightly behind where the retaining wall would come out to. But the point is, it doesn't come out a long way in front of it, so that it's a big thing to their open property.
So is that something that Hancock would do, is to notify all the,
No, we do,
because they did include that?
yes, but it's our responsibility.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah,
for what, notifying abutters?
yeah, yeah. If-
So
This
you-
is B2 now. yeah.
Yep,
If-
so typically, if you have an engineer working on a project, they will work with you to do that. Or they'll do it. I mean, if you've seen people come before conservation, they go to the assessor's office, they get the abutters list, they prepare that. Certainly, we could help, but, you know, just kind of depends on how you wanna go about it. I think though, to your point, Barry, which is very, very valid, I think we need, in our conversation with Hancock, is to get some clarification on the soil testing, and that's for the Phase B1.
Yep,
And then under Phase B2, I think we need to make sure that they're using that drainage plan that already, the parking lot plan that already
Already
exists
exists.
as a jumping off point.
And that might be why you haven't heard back, because you did,
yeah, I
Already
did
submit
at
that
least
plan.
twice, yeah.
so
yeah.
that's, in a sense, taking work from them that they've already been planning for.
Could be,
Um,
So they could be holding back because of that.
could be.
Under the notes for B2, number 3,
They're in Marlboro.
that's on the second
I
page.
realized they were so close, I saw down here first.
The client to provide an existing condition survey stamped and signed by a PLS.
So you need a stamped engineering plan in order to be able to move forward with any type of improvements, because in order to pull permits, you have to have a stamped
Right.
engineering plan.
But I guess in my mind, I thought that part of their work was to do that.
So the engineers wouldn't do the
Do
work.
the surveying, but I mean, rather than have a third party, because Ross presumably still cannot provide that service for us.
Ross is
that's-
an architect, right?
No, Ross
No.
is, surveying and.
They're not civil engineers.
Yes, they do.
Well, they do some civil engineering, environmental engineering.
They do septic systems and all that kind of stuff.
So why couldn't they do this work?
They didn't have the staff. And
No,
that's why,
no.
that's why we ended
Oh.
up with Hancock.
Got it, got
Because
it.
Dan Barton
Recommended them. I
recommended
mean, I do
Hancock.
like that they are local. They
Yeah.
are in Marlboro, which is they're not like way out in,
Yeah.
I get nervous with the big firms in Boston sometimes, cause they come to the little towns and charge you
Oh,
through
yeah.
the nose.
Mhm.
I would think that, so you know how you got the site plans that were prepared for the foundation and the
Yes.
drainage? And then what I do with that is you give me that and the scope, I put it out to bid, and then you have the construction person come in and actually
Mhm.
do it. So you're actually you're ready to go if you're ready with that. In this case, you're getting to the same point here with the overall drainage on the site is the goal. So I think it's really important that they start with the existing plans.
With the, existing plan.
That they what?
Start with the existing
Oh,
plans.
definitely.
So we could ask them if they,
Make sure they reviewed them and what
Yeah.
they're,
I
Does-
think we've got to be very careful to make sure that we've got the correct documents that we want them to work with.
agreed.
And I think giving them a whole package of stuff is not the same thing as giving them the 2 or 3 sheets that we wanna give.
Correct.
I
Do you
think
have
they-
those isolated?
I think that you're gonna have to help me do that.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, if you have those isolated and you can get those to us, and then we can hone them in specifically on it, I think that's where we need to go.
I've seen them in the packet, I've seen them on the computer, I don't necessarily have them in
Okay.
hand. And the other thing is the bid package should be in the selectmen's files. And it was,
This is for the 1870 ADA
the
improvements?
1870, yeah,
All right, I can look for that.
and, this is, 2016 or something, approximately then, 16, 17.
I was gonna say, I think I've seen some stuff from 17, so
Yeah.
that makes sense, that's right
And,
around.
the select person who was working with this was Christine.
Oh, excellent, okay,
She was working with the plans for that project right through too, so she might be
Great.
of some help in terms of identifying what kind of a file we need.
okay. Yeah, she actually just brought
Um,
me something today on River Bridge, so she keeps
Yeah.
good records,
Yeah, and as I say, it's the option for the parking lot,
right.
that we want that part of it, because there may be some useful stuff in that bid package that would specify what we were doing, and, I mean, if it was ready to go to bid then, I don't know why it isn't now.
Well, and you know, it's funny, cause the more, and I didn't realize that parking lot design was so robust in terms of
Yeah.
potentially addressing the drainage as well.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, Evie said they really did a lot of,
they did.
yeah.
And I mean, Ross did most of that work with Austin, but Ross did the work on the ground for the,
Yeah, I went through that whole thing with Ross, asking for whatever he had that informed the drainage to be sent to,
yeah. To Margot.
yes, well, Mogul, yes, Dan, and also,
Yeah, it says right in the scope, they were
Yeah, yeah.
reviewing the raw stocks,
Yeah.
so.
yeah,
I think we need to have 2 conversations. I think one, we need to talk to Ross about what their findings are so far from reviewing the documents. We need to talk to them about this scope and talk to them about the parking lot and the drainage plans that are already in place.
You're
and-
talking about Hancock, we're talking
I'm talking
about
about
Hancock
Hancock,
about
yeah.
those things.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, Ross is out.
And then I actually think it's worth having a conversation, about a clerk of the works type of deal with Howard Stein Hudson. I have to say, I have found they're not only easy to work with, but they're relatively inexpensive and they don't nickel and dime you. Their principal that I work with, Steven Tyler, not from Aerosmith. Although I like to think he, plays Walk This Way in his office. He was a DPW director for the town of Spencer for about 16 years,
Wow.
and he's an engineer, and then he
Yeah.
joined this firm. So he understands how to get things done with limited resources in a small town.
How to do the politics locally.
And how to do the right, but he gets it from the other side. He's
Yeah.
not the ivory tower engineer who is out there charging up the wazoo, so I think he might be worth worth talking to.
Might be.
Well,
And
particularly if he's already familiar with some of the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the-
So would
the
that eliminate some of
Centertown
the site
issues.
visits they've talked about?
it may, and that's, I almost, if Howard Stein Hudson wants to get on board with this, and if the Historical Commission is in agreement, I would almost send them this Hancock proposal and say, and send them the plans we already have and go, do we even need this?
Because they also mentioned, filling in as project managers.
Yep.
And, I mean, I looked at the rates and they're pretty high, but, you know, if we can
Yeah.
get someone else to take a look at the whole thing, the whole, package, that would be so much better, maybe we could actually get going.
I mean, I have to say, they were great. We brought them in on Complete Streets, so the planning board did a prioritization plan. So this is a state program where you basically make complete streets that address biking, walking, all of that. And we had, I don't know, what, 16 projects or something on the list, and we literally went, here's the plan, what do you think we should apply for? And they went through and said, oh, you know, you got a great chance of getting the grant if you apply for the center, and the downtown. And, they wrote the grant for the whole thing, for $4,500, and we got a $500,000 grant out of it. So I'll tell you, that was worth its money, for sure.
Now we've gotta see whether we really like the idea.
Well, it's gonna go to public meetings, it's gonna be out there. I understand there's parking questions and two-directional versus one-way versus how we kind of arrange that. So they actually have they haven't designed anything yet. Their idea is to do a conceptual design and then bring it to public meetings. And they specifically say, bring it to the Historical Commission. So you are named in their proposal.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
I'm more concerned about that one with my church hat, thank you.
Ah, I gotcha. Well, we can
It's
get
all
you
around
get you
our
named in
property.
there too. They say the abutters,
Can,
so.
if I were to write down, backing up to when you first talked about what is that? What
I
are
call them
they?
HSH.
HSH, when you first talked to them, the steps, because I'm trying to kind of get it so I can put it in the minutes.
Oh, sure. I
And-
would recommend June and I have a conversation with Hancock about what they've done to date, because we have to get that
Yeah,
Figure.
write-up or whatever, you know, where they're at based
The
on
report,
the
yeah.
report, based
Yeah.
on the research they've done, before we can, you know, pay that invoice. And then I'd like some more clarification from Hancock on what they plan to do with this proposal, as we discussed, with regard to the soil and the soil testing, and also how they plan to move forward, given we have existing plans. I'd also like to have a separate conversation with HSH and just say, hey, we're doing this project. It ties in with everything that's going on downtown in so many ways. You know, we've got drainage issues, we've got building issues, we've got ADA issues, you know, it's, cause they're talking about making sure the sidewalks and, have the cutouts for ADA, they're talking about parking. I mean, everything that you guys have been talking about, like where should we put the parking for the Bullard House, like, that all ties into all of this. And say, you know, what do you guys think about kind of general project oversight? Either, you know, from on-site to look at clerking, when we do the actual physical construction, or trying to see if we can kind of make sure this is folded in comprehensively to what I would call almost like a downtown revitalization, if you will.
So that would take care of the part of the sidewalk in front of.
It is
of
going to.
Bullard House,
Yep.
wouldn't it?
And so
really
obviously
integrates.
your input is going to be huge, because the sidewalk goes right in front of the Bullard, and I've seen the plans, you have 4 different ideas of how to arrange the parking and the sidewalk, and whether it goes in the back or down the hill or
Yeah.
Well,
up
that's why
there,
we
or,
ended up back with the parking lot.
Yeah,
If we
we-
get the parking lot, it
yeah.
takes care of it all.
got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we
We
weren't.
didn't want people backing out into Route 62.
Yeah, that's probably not, I don't think the police would like that so much either. I think they would say that might cause a few
I
accidents.
never got to the point of having them come in and go,
Yeah, or backing out
I
into the
knew we
crosswalk
could.
that's right there.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly, if you're gonna have a lot of pedestrian access, you
architect
don't
is
really
saying,
want
"Yeah,
people
it's fine,
backing
they
into
can park
anything.
there, they can back
Well,
out."
and-
You want them to be driving headfirst.
Right, and I look at that whole area,
Say that
and
at
you
3:30,
go
4:30 in the
19
afternoon.
Carter, library,
Stand there in the street and watch them
1870
coming by.
Bullard, the church.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a
20 minutes to
perfect
Handicap
walkable, the
parking
general
in the back of
store,
it.
it's a perfect walkable place. So we just need to make sure we do it right,
Yeah,
and we do it comprehensively. So,
Okay.
I wanted to understand what they meant also by project team. I mean, so far, it's you, Kristen, and then you forward things to me, and then we recommend back to you or not.
right.
So,
And I'm a little nervous about filling that role, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie, because
Yeah.
again, I know what I know and I know what I don't know, and I'm not an engineer, and I'll be the first to admit it, because I don't wanna make a mistake and improperly advise you.
so
So-
I would think that this CSL or,
Yep,
would be really the
point
the
person?
yeah, the important person on the team, and then we would,
They would funnel the
they're
information.
kind of the go-between, like, they send a proposal and they go, you know, I don't know. The other thing too is that they speak engineer, they can provide engineering services to some extent too, or they can provide oversight services. Now, you usually want the third-party person who's also an engineer, cause they're on your side, right?
yeah.
You know, not to say the engineer is bad, but you need somebody who's going, I understand what you're trying to do with this project, that proposal doesn't make sense for what you're trying to do. And I can't speak engineer enough to be able to say this doesn't make sense, cause maybe it does. But I can't tell you how we normally go about things, except I know enough about soil testing to be dangerous, because I used to run the brownfields remediation program for the city of Worcester. So, that I know about soil testing, so that was when my ears went up like, well, wait a minute, how many are we doing? And like you said, how deep are we going? But, you know, I think we, you know, if that's a path forward that's amenable to the commission, I'm happy to work with June or anybody, and I'm sure Fred is willing to, you know, be an advisory role if we have questions too on certain things. And I just kinda wanted to make sure that we're not piecing everything that's going on downtown, because there's so much going on at the same time.
And it's just not that big an area.
It's not, no.
So it really does need to be a comprehensive plan. It's kind of
And you
like the
don't wanna
Bullard House
spend money on
and
one and then tear it
town
up
hall,
the next
no.
week to do the other.
well,
Right.
like the parking lot, it's so close, it needs to be accessible by both buildings, the
Right.
Bullard and the 1870 Town Hall. And it's like you've got just limited space for all of this stuff, and a not very flat topography,
Correct.
No.
so.
And that's where the parking and the drainage came from, because when I met with you all, when I think I first started, you were talking about drainage coming down the hill, and parking up the hill was one of the options, and, you know, Peg, Selectwoman Stone kept saying, pave the parking, put in ADA, and I'm going, wait a minute, if you've got runoff coming down the hill, that's like putting a Band-Aid on something that you're gonna rip up.
Well,
So-
paving something is gonna cause more drainage.
Right, and
Well,
then.
again,
Well-
you didn't know about the plan that had been developed that did all, deal with it.
Exactly, so that's why I'm glad we're all kind of sitting around the table, because then Fred also put in a capital request for the paving, and then I wanted to connect him up with you guys, because you guys are looking at the drainage, so just making sure everybody's on the same page and we do it in the right sequence.
Yeah, we
Well,
wanna
if
do
we
it
do the
once,
paving
not
without,
5 times.
without
Right.
drainage, we're gonna have a river down the driveway that goes right across the street to that catch basin.
Well, had I known this drainage was already, like, sought out before, it
Yeah.
probably would've made my job easier, like, 4 or 5 months ago,
Yeah.
but, you know, it's
I'm-
like sharing
The
information.
thing that I don't
Yeah.
know is how much, I know there was something about that drainage, but I'm not positive how fully developed that was for how that was gonna get done. But I know they had it set up that, there were the 2 dry wells, but then they were gonna make them into catch basins and have it go down and underground,
Oh, interesting.
down to that catch basin. Showing-
Those come from that comes from the parking lot plan?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we need to make sure we share that with Fred as well.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there was so much drainage that had been planned as part of the parking lot, so.
And I don't know how detailed plans they ever got with that actual drain thing.
Okay.
I know that Keith was hot for it, because he said, I don't wanna build any parking lot if you're not gonna put the drainage in.
Yeah, but I've seen some of Keith's work in the past, and
Yeah,
our building, for instance.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's good we're all at least talking about it before we put a shovel really in the ground to do it, so that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, cause ideally you
Please.
wanna start from the furthest point and then eventually meet up with your
Yeah.
drainage
The other thing that we do know about that site is you never know what you've got for rock underground in order to put a pipe in. I mean, some places there's stuff and some places there isn't, and
Right, the water's gonna fall. the
they
ledge.
dug a hole this big in the middle of the backyard and said, oh yeah, we can put a septic tank there, and I said, I'll believe it when I see the whole hole.
Do you think that we could ask Hancock to produce that existing condition survey, or do we have to go to the trouble to, I mean, Ross,
That's what the outcome is if we sign Phase B, is my understanding. So they
Yeah.
would go through all of this process, and your, not outcome, your product, I can't think of the word, sorry, it's been a long week. Basically, what you would get from signing this proposal would be the existing conditions survey along with the septic system modification design and the parking lot modification. So you're getting plans as a result of this.
The septic system
But
is
they-
in this thing?
no, but.
No, does,
We're
to,
gonna get the plan of the septic.
oh, I'm sorry, I misread this. Design of septic system modifications by Ross to be considered as part of the design of the
Yeah,
parking
they
lot.
have to-
Sorry, I
they have to
misspoke.
Use
We've
it.
already got it
Yeah.
designed for the septic.
Yeah, no, they're gonna make sure they take that into account.
But it says for number 3, the client to provide the survey.
Oh, client to provide.
Client to provide, so, I don't see why they wouldn't be the ones to do the surveying. I mean, that's
That's
what
a
they
little
do.
weird. The more you raise questions, I'm not,
So Barry, what happens if, there is a lot of ledge there and they can't put in that 1,500-gallon septic tank?
Then we can apply for a variance.
Then we go back to the
Board
Board of Health and talk to them about how else we can solve the problem.
Cause that's
Dan
a very,
Wolf is,
that's a good possibility that we
Yeah.
can't get
Of course
through.
it is.
Dan Wolf was very confident. Now, I was talking with, our septic guy.
Paul.
Paul, thank
Wheeler.
you. I lose that name every time. I was talking with Paul about that, and Paul said, he came to the house actually, and we were looking at the plan, and he said, this is a really good plan. It printed up beautifully, so that was good anyway, one very positive. But yeah, he said that he wasn't sure. He really wasn't sure, because it's hard to know what's down there, and there has been an awful lot of ledge. He also said the tools now that can be used, the modern tools, allow for amazing things to be done. And I said, yeah, but it must cost a fortune to split a whole piece off of some giant rock. And he said, it isn't as much as you would think. But he, in a sense, I felt was cautioning us a little bit. Wait till we see it to actually believe it. So,
I mean, one of the things that I think is possible, I think, very expert opinion, is that you could have a smaller tank. What we need is another, we need a 2-compartment tank, and this is, one of the ways to do it is put a second tank in. Well, they could put in a smaller tank, you've already got a tank that's adequate for the system all by itself. So the point is maybe a smaller or a different shaped tank.
well, I think they're looking at, flat, not
Yeah.
having to go down too deep. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's looking at those
And
choices,
so-
but,
So they can, if this won't fit, then they may have to try something different.
mhm.
But that's something they gotta work out with the agent from the Board of Health
Mhm.
as to how to satisfy the requirement for the 2-compartment tank. This is a lovely solution if there was no issues about underground rocks. And maybe it'll work out. It'll
But
be
we
fine.
see the rocks that are in the back part of the cellar.
Mhm.
I mean, that's quite a bit.
Well, we saw the rocks when they were digging the hole.
Yeah.
They were pretty big.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
unfortunately, my recommendation on how to move forward is to get some additional information and to consult with HSH,
Yep.
if the commission is amenable to that.
I think that would be a great idea. Do we need to vote on that?
Probably, huh?
Well,
It's gonna involve money.
Well, no, that's just conversation, that's not
Oh,
spending
okay.
any
Yeah.
money, that would be
Okay.
just, letting June and I
Conversation.
have, some
Yeah.
conversations.
Yep.
Yeah, we agreed that we need clarification from Hancock regarding Phase B. And also, I guess this is a separate matter, for Phase A, 01, we're awaiting a little report,
Yeah.
even if it's just a couple of sentences.
And I think the number 3 would be a discussion with HS.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
H to ask them if they would, and if they would, if they could give us an estimate.
Well, and not only that, if they're interested, I would like them to come to your next meeting and speak to you
Mhm.
all.
That
Yeah.
would actually be really good.
That would be
And
great.
I'm sure they would. I mean, they're really approachable people. I have to say, they've been always great when I've worked with them, so.
that's wonderful to
I
have.
think we're looking at spending potentially a lot of money for something we're not very comfortable
Understand.
with.
Yeah.
Understandable,
Mhm.
rather. Yeah, and I get wanting to be frugal. I completely do, and wanting to do it in the best possible way that maximizes impact and minimizes cost. I think that you also wanna figure out what's the best way to move the project forward. And I do believe that there is a way to look at it a bit more comprehensively and potentially save money, because if you're not doing little bits, sometimes you can get economies of scale when you put multiple pieces of the work out to bid at the same time, because you're already gonna have a contractor on site doing X, and then if you're like, well, can you also do Y and Z? Sometimes it's a lot cheaper than if you're individually bidding out those
Yeah.
parts,
Mhm.
provided they all are connected and make sense logically and are of the same nature,
Yeah,
if
And
you
I
will.
think what we've also discussed is doing things once. We don't want to do it and then have to
Yep.
take it apart because we didn't realize it was going to be impacting something else down the road.
Exactly.
So if we connect with HSH to do some of the work for, they're already doing something for the town.
Yep.
And that has gone out to bid and everything, so this would be a separate.
This would
bid.
be separate, so
More-
engineering services, are typically exempt under 30B, except for when you have, what's called the designer selection law. So when you do $300,000
Yeah.
in construction work and the design fee is over $30,000, then you have to put both components out to bid.
So if we were gonna write down our action statements, as they say, I just wanna make sure I'm getting what's important and what's sort of the side stuff. The next steps would be particularly with HSH.
HSH,
Yeah, yeah.
Just think Aerosmith, Steven Tyler.
Yeah,
that helps.
Steven Tyler, all right, well, I love it. So.
there's three things.
Three things. Number
Yeah.
one, I just wanna make sure in my minutes I'm just putting the important stuff, cause I have a
Two of
tendency.
them are with Hancock proposal.
All right, number one is,
Agreed to meet with Hancock.
yeah,
That's Kristen and me, and actually, I suppose if anyone else is really interested,
Mhm.
definitely come along.
And I'd just say, in regard to
The
issues
proposal.
in the proposal.
In the the Phase
Yeah.
B proposal.
Yeah, I
Clarification.
don't think you need to put the detail of what they all are.
no.
No,
I
'cause
agree.
there's-
And number two,
Get the report from Phase A.
get report from Phase A. Mm-hmm. And
And-
number three, I just wanna make sure I put the
That's
good
from
stuff.
Hancock also.
Not
That's
from Hancock, yeah, yeah.
And then have a discussion about possible assistance from
right,
HSH,
Oversight.
oversight, yeah.
And, wait a minute, assistance from, and then, there was one other thing I was gonna ask, that I thought we should put in. Well, anyway, good for now, good for now.
The other piece that I would love to have you put in there is that we're also going to try to review the bid documents from the town hall job
Right.
and see if there's material there that will help us with the parking lot.
And get me the specific pages, get us the
Okay.
specific parking lot
Think Fred
pages.
would like to
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah.
So just to
Yeah.
clarify, in my mind, HSH is civil engineering? or
Yes.
They are civil engineering. So we're dealing with Hancock, who is civil engineering, and now we're dealing with HSH, there's also civil engineering.
So they would be in an oversight role though, as opposed to in a,
Planning.
correct.
Yeah,
Mhm.
HSH would be working on your behalf,
Yeah,
Correct.
Okay.
not as like the contractor trying to get what they can out of you.
And what's nice about them
Exactly.
is they do both, on the engineering side, they also do the planning side of things too. So they have a little bit of both, they know about land use, which I've found can be really helpful too, when you look at the, kind of bigger picture and, you have all the pieces, you have the septic and you have, the parking and the drainage and the actual work on the building, and so there's all those components. And I know, where are you at with the master plan?
Well, we don't have Dan anymore.
Okay,
He's on an extended adventure.
oh, good for him.
Semi-retirement, isn't it?
Oh,
But we do,
that's lovely.
where we are exactly is Nikki Fletcher, who our project has been offloaded to. Nikki and her assistant Colby have provided us with existing conditions drawings of the interior of the Bullard House.
Yep,
And our job is to mark up those drawings with how we want things to go forward with the use of each room and any
Okay.
changes. Well, there will be some changes, I guess.
do you have an anticipated time frame for completion of the master plan?
It's hard to say because we have all of these construction things that really have to come first.
Well, I think the use plans of the rooms aren't really affected by the
It's design,
construction, yeah.
Well,
Really?
design is though, isn't it?
Well,
Isn't it all part
well,
of
to
one big-
me, that was the last
Mhm.
piece, those existing conditions drawings provided us with the last piece of the master plan. But if you look at Dan's workflow sheet, there are definitely other things that we need to track: funding,
Right.
outreach,
Grant writing.
yeah,
we need
what-
the
yeah,
funding.
funding, yeah.
Cause I know we've met a couple of times, all of us together since I started. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the whole project and everything that needs to happen. And I think for me, understanding it through the master plan would help me to
Yeah.
fully get the
Well, the
scope.
workflow sheet is in the Dropbox.
That I've seen, I think,
Yeah.
and that's also, and Janet, you prepared a summary too that was
Mhm.
very helpful.
Yeah, but so it really includes everything,
Okay.
but, I think we need to make our own workflow sheet, because we need to we need to address
Yeah.
the exterior of the building.
I did start
Yeah,
one
we
too, and
spent
you
a
and I
lot of
talked
time on
about
the
that.
interior, but not so much on the exterior.
Mhm.
Because
think
we've got,
part of
we've
that-
got some issues, that if the exterior were further along, and I think that we would,
Well, I think some of that was dependent on where we were going to have the main access and
yeah,
but I think we've decided that, so we
yeah.
could move forward with some of the other.
But maybe well, we'll see what our insurance adjuster,
It would be nice.
with him, but yet?
I called, this morning, which I promised to do, but I didn't get to talk to anybody.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Um,
sometimes I find I play phone tag with the adjusters a few times,
Yeah.
cause they're doing so many, and they're on the road a lot, so.
So they didn't hear me
Yeah,
yet.
and probably, there's some storm damage that they're dealing with too.
Yeah, and I asked Lucy to work on our leakage, because my time might be pretty limited pretty soon. And she said fine, she would.
Yeah.
So I did call to make because they wanna come in and do an
Yeah.
inspection. And
Maybe you
so-
can pass that, I got the name, but I'm not sure I have the number, so maybe,
Yep, I don't have that
later,
with me,
you don't have
but-
to do it right now.
This is the insurance thing.
Yeah, yeah,
It would be, I think it would be really nice to get the outside done, because that would certainly give people I mean, first of all, it would make it look so much better. And it would be, you know, give people the sense that, yes, we are moving along, we're getting things done. Because the inside, I'd rather have the outside done before the inside, if you want to know the truth.
Well,
Um,
yeah, if we can cure our structural issues,
Mhm.
or,
I just want the foundation done.
I was gonna say
So
that-
that will be behind us, so we can do those other things.
Well, you know,
It's not gonna get anywhere in any of those other
Yeah.
things till we get that other thing taken.
So
because they'll
is
make a
there-
mess.
while they're working on the drainage and everything else, is there any way that we can start doing some of the foundation work on the inside
Oh, I think that could be done
at
in
the same,
time period.
simultaneously? And, you know, one thing that I want to bring up, a few people have recommended having a bulkhead, making it easier to access the cellar. 'Cause
Having
right-
the bulkhead.
Yeah,
Well, that's one of the pieces that's in the discussion of the foundation
Foundation.
work.
Yeah.
That has to still be decided.
Yeah,
It
that
would
was our
certainly-
second, that's our
Yeah,
second
that was
job
in your
today.
email to,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, so we can,
Are we ready to go there? or
we
are
can,
still
yeah,
not?
we can go there. I did a few things to get ready for talking about that, and one was to go online and actually see a YouTube of what closed cell foam insulation,
Mhm.
you know, how that application goes forward, and some of the, Fred, you may have an opinion about closed cell foam insulation.
That's the spray-in foam?
Yeah,
Mm.
I've seen it, well, there's one house in town that I know has it, Ray Walker's old house, where that was,
in the
So-
foundation or other places
Uh,
too?
just in the walls and ceilings.
Okay, not the foundation, okay.
They've been talking about applying it to the foundation walls on the inside of the foundation
Yeah.
wall.
Well, that was a suggestion. It's not our structural engineering firm that has proposed that. It's a person that we know who's interested in helping us, who's not an engineer, but has used that in his own,
In his own home, yeah.
in his own home and had very
People.
good luck with it. But,
On his foundation?
yeah,
Yeah.
on his foundation, yeah. But it was 10 years, that's 10 years ago.
And it's still working, right?
That's what he said.
No weeks yet.
That's what he said, it's still good.
Yeah. There's two different forms, there's the closed cell and the open cell. The closed cell is a vapor barrier. It doesn't require an awful lot of things, it doesn't expand as much, whereas the open cell expands further. And,
Which means,
but it's open cell means that it's not a vapor barrier.
okay.
Yeah, you won't solve your moisture
No,
problem.
and we definitely need that.
Mhm.
So I have, if you wanna have a look at a YouTube of how that's applied and what that will look like, I have that bookmarked on my computer. So that's one thing we can do to help us understand the suggestions. Did everybody read Dan Barton's reply?
Yeah,
Did you?
Started to, I didn't finish
yeah.
it.
I
Um,
need to run, I'm sorry
yeah,
to interrupt.
thank you.
And I assume Fred probably's gotta get back to what he's
This one.
doing.
Yeah,
I'm thinking you don't need us
Started to.
necessarily for this
I think
part.
we
Yeah.
got through
Okay.
that other
No,
part, yeah.
I really
yeah.
appreciate your coming
Absolutely,
because
we
Yeah.
have a game plan now.
good.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
relieves a little stress that I've managed to build up.
Oh, no stress. When you're stressed, you reach out to me, but let's touch base and we'll figure out,
Okay, a
phone
time,
calls and
yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to be part of those, I'm interested in hearing what they've got to say.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, that'd be good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fred, for coming.
Yeah, Fred, that was great.
Get that zip drive to you, or the isolated parts that matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if you wanna send it over the weekend, to give me something to do over the weekend.
Yeah, oh, all right.
You're bored? No.
No.
I know you're never bored, Fred.
He's
always late
interested.
nights.
Yeah, yeah. In case,
Yeah.
you know, the
Yeah.
programming isn't good, you know.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So Dan, have you all read this?
Yeah,
He thinks,
I have.
he definitely thinks that the bulkhead would be a benefit. He makes no conclusions about the closed cell foam insulation or the step process, which is preparing the laid-up stone in a more appropriate way, I guess, or a less
Yeah, and he also made a comment about the cistern too.
Yeah,
that
he said,
didn't
the
know.
reason, now I remember, the reason that they told, that when I asked about that in a Zoom meeting, was that they thought it was,
Structural.
that it might disrupt the foundation.
Yeah,
Well, it's a concrete thing. The wall of it that's against the front wall foundation, I wouldn't touch. I'd leave that
Yeah.
alone. But the parts that come out into, the part that comes out into the room could be taken out. I would hope without disturbing the part that's against the foundation. The part against the foundation is just,
yeah,
that's
don't-
already
don't touch that.
reinforcing the
Yeah.
foundation,
Don't touch that.
has been for a long time. But the part that sticks out in the room, yeah, we could
If
take,
they could cut it back.
yeah.
Cut it back, how do you cut cement? I mean, they do, I know.
They
But
do cut
we've never cleaned the rubble out of the inside of the
No.
thing to see what
No,
it
but I
is.
think
Yeah.
you can
But
just cut the cement and
I would
and
think
leave
they
the-
could cut the cement and
So-
leave the part that was against the wall and not disturb the outside wall.
So what make, I think that you've mentioned a couple times that we're not sure what it is.
That's correct.
We don't know who built it, we don't know why it was built.
It's a 20th century,
It's built
Yeah.
with,
It's
it's
not
built with
old,
concrete bricks.
yep.
And then it's covered with poured stuff, apparently, and it's, I mean,
Someone's
the
filled it
nature
with
of how
rubble.
it's constructed tells me it's not
It's
real
po-
old,
It's post-1920.
I would say, yes.
I
Oh,
wonder
yeah.
if they did that for drainage.
Hmm?
I wonder if they did that for drainage.
I haven't the foggiest idea what they were thinking when they did it.
Well, and multiple people have looked at it and no one really has a good idea.
Nobody really knows what it is.
And if they did do it for drainage, it didn't work, so, you know, I'm just.
Bingo.
No, I'm just saying, it's not like we'd be losing something practical. If it was historic, we'd
We
be
don't even
losing
know what
that.
it was, so it's like, to me, if you don't know anything and no one can figure it out, it's kind of useless.
I can't say how many people that have gone down that cellar and we've asked them their opinion and
nobody
nobody,
seems to
I
know.
mean, the idea of a cistern to hold water or something is about the only thing that people
So
come up
maybe
with.
we should, have you ever seen Shawshank Redemption where the guy's
Yeah.
in the, and
Yeah,
he's got this little hammer and he's
Mhm,
digging away at this and bringing it out? Maybe
I'd
that's
say
what we
take
could
a
do.
saw and just cut it out and get rid of
Maybe
it.
that's a body
It's,
down
Hmm.
It's one of those things that's very substantial and you
It's-
gotta
it's a
decide
pain
whether
in
it's
the
even
neck.
worth the work of tearing it
Well,
out.
I was gonna say, it's a lot of work to take
Yeah.
stuff like that
Well,
down.
that's it. I mean, we have to make sure that we really can't work with it there, because you could keep things in it. I mean, it's not like it's solid. You could still store things
Well,
in
You
it.
it's
still
solid,
have to
it's-
empty it.
it's
So-
solid, I'm not sure how much rubble there is on the, you
Yeah,
know, from the surface down.
When you get down a couple of inches, you might find something else, yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should clean
I've
the
thought
rubble
for a
out,
while
and
that
maybe
we
we'd
should
find
clean it
out more.
out, but I've also not bothered to go start.
Well, because
Such an
you have to
unfortunate.
25
carry the
years.
rubble
Yeah.
up the stairs,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
We don't have a bulkhead right now.
That's right.
The thing that makes me wonder is, you know, the drawing that we had for, you know, for the drainage goes around that.
Yeah,
So why, and that's kind of odd to me,
it's strange.
you know, and
Strange.
that
Why don't
drainage
we
has to be,
take a pic- oh,
we
I'm
have to,
sorry.
one more
I'm
second.
sorry, I
And you have to
interrupted.
dig down into the ground to get that drainage in, correct? About 6 inches at
I
least?
think so. I don't know. I don't quite understand that whole job anyway.
Why don't I send a photograph to my friend Phil Zay and to Jane Nylander? Those are the two people I know the most who know old stuff.
This isn't old stuff.
But it's 1920 or after, Janet.
Well, all right, so we send it to someone who studies more current history. But, I mean, is there somebody, I was trying to think, is there anybody who would know? And even though that itself may not be old, it may be something that was done a long time ago. You know, you never know. And they might say, oh yeah, we're seeing these in a lot of old houses. I might do that anyway. Who's gonna stop me? And just say, have you ever seen anything like this that, in a house? I mean,
Well,
I'm
it doesn't
curious.
doesn't hurt.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt to do that. But at the same time, I suppose that is space that we could use for something else, right? Is that why we wanted to take it out?
Well, we wanted,
I mean, is
think
it
we
worth?
We wanted a straight line.
And why do we want the straight line? 'Cause for moving things around?
Well, because you've got drainage going like this,
Mm-hmm.
whereas a straight line would just go that
Well,
way.
it wouldn't be perfectly straight,
Yeah,
because you've
it-
also got an old foundation wall that comes back into the room too.
And would
But
that,
it
would
wouldn't
that
be as-
hold up better or something if it's not a straight
Well,
line?
your drainage would be closer to
Could
the,
be. I
to
don't
the,
know. See, I still am not convinced at all that there's any great drainage problem there at all, if we could just solve the problem with the lawn outside and the water that comes in from that.
I think you're
Well, I
probably
think
right.
that sinkhole by the old door there concerns me a lot.
Well, that has come about because of the way that the
Yeah.
water comes in
But
there
I'm
from
just
up in the
saying,
parking lot.
That concerns me a lot, and I think we need to fix that sooner rather than later.
Could we get a, well, no, I
That
was
and the
thinking a
roof.
second opinion from one of our
I
engineers.
still don't know what the problems are with the roof. The latest time, I didn't find any indication of a leak this time, although I should go up and see if there's anything wet on the bottom of the roof there. Last week, it was dripping over at the stack, at the
Oh, on the other side of the room.
plumbing stack. And that's where where the leak was. I put a bucket under it to catch it up on the top. But and that place has leaked before on very limited occasions. Because we found water on on top of the plastic under the floor.
we just hope the
So
insurance
once in a
adjuster
while,
will
the
just-
right storm
will still insure
it'll
the
leak
building.
that way.
And it's probably just the way the wind blows.
Hmm?
I think it has a lot to do with the way the wind blows.
Yeah, but you,
Yes, I do.
but you
I
want
think
it
that's
to
the
be
case.
100%. I mean, we don't want to be repairing plastered ceilings every couple of
Of course
years.
not.
Well,
Of course
that-
not.
And but, when I wasn't up on the roof, because I can't say
Yeah,
that I
no.
was, but and I put some pictures of it, is that there's flashing between, on the side of the, the,
Dormer.
beside the, yes, but there's one space where there's no flashing, right where the corner
Mhm.
board meets, there's
Mhm.
no flashing
Right.
there. And that is one possibility, I bet there's more than one, but there's definitely one where it doesn't go, and the corner board is kind of rotted.
Very much below that.
A very,
This is
So
a
that's
place
probably
where
a
I think we
product of
could
that
use a
spot.
volunteer. Because
I know.
Al went in there, it was amazing to watch Al go in there, and to, see him go, look, he looks at the
Yeah,
outside.
we
looks
need
at
to
what-
stick
we
to
tell him where
the
problem is,
foundation
and-
issues.
And he walked right to the spot,
yeah, he did.
he pulled some wood away from, a board away, and you could see exactly
Ta-da.
where it was coming in.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure.
But was
to
it
us-
wet?
Yeah, to us it was a great mystery, but to Al, it's his field. So it may be that we just need to have a little more of Al around.
No, I haven't looked in there when there was any wet in there at all. so
Well, I
that's
thought,
what I'm
I was
looking
pretty
for.
sure, but where of course it was really wet was in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And it was just, and then there's a hole there that, God help us if somebody fell in it, but it was like, you could look down and you could see the water had
Puddled.
collected there. Well, I mean,
Yeah, it was
Probably-
puddled under, we picked up
probably more than
some
a
of the,
puddle, I think it was like
yeah,
a well
Where?
almost. In the, the
Where
bathroom.
was the puddle?
It was right in the middle of the bathroom there.
Right in
no,
the middle of
it
the
was just in the ground, in the ground.
Yeah,
And
it's
we
down-
picked up,
you
we
looked
picked
in-
up the plywood and looked down, and you could see there's
Yeah.
plastic in there, and there was puddles of water in there.
And I think of puddles as partially covering the ground. This was like a well. You looked in there and you thought you were looking down into a well.
Yeah,
So, and that was right in the middle of the,
Of the floor.
yeah.
in
of
the middle of the room?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was not in the room, it was on the ground level, you could see dirt.
It was on the what?
At the ground, in the ground, just, below, like what could have been a crawl space. Let me see.
Is
there
the
was a hole.
plastic
did you see?
There was
the
some
hole?
plastic,
on top of the plastic?
yeah, there was some on top of the plastic and under the plastic, because the plastic was all kind of bunched up.
But what I saw when I looked in was a hole that looked like a well, and you could see, you had no idea how deep it was. It was filled with
See,
water.
I have a picture. I took a picture while I was not on the roof. This is the flashing right here. This is the roof line. And there's nothing there. And that's just an open space where water could just go through.
So we're looking at, you know what, we're talking about two different places.
No, actually, we're not. We're talking about the leakage from the roof into the
Bathroom.
into the bathroom.
And then
then,
into a hole that looks like a well.
but that's underneath, yeah, that's under the,
floor.
that's on the floor.
Yeah,
It's
under
in
the
the crawl
floor.
space.
If
in the
he
crawl
lifted
space.
the
See, Barry?
plywood off of the floor,
Yeah, I got that.
and
I
then you could
understand
see
that
this
point.
thing. I would have been afraid to step in there for fear I'd
But is
be
that
drowned.
gonna produce a leak over by the stack?
Probably more than one.
Well, I think there's more than one leak, Barry.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's,
I really do think that. See,
We've gone to
Unfortunately, you
another
can't see-
subject
yes, we
here.
have.
you can't see it very well, but that's what we pulled off. And the water was puddling in there. This is in the crawl space.
This is in where?
The crawl space under the bathroom. Take a look at it.
So the water's on top of
Trying
the
to look at
plastic.
it.
On top and underneath it too.
There's water under the plastic.
Yeah,
Any idea where it's coming from?
Yeah.
no, it's just, and that's not even a good picture, but,
Well, what
do we
what
need
do
to
we
get
need
back
to
on-
still
Yeah.
do today? Because it's
Well,
getting late.
that's it right there.
What do we need to still?
Well, we've derailed this to the leak, which we shouldn't have done
Okay.
Yeah,
because,
but
because
we
we
need
don't,
to
Get
break.
back onto,
The what?
our conversation,
we've wandered.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So we need to talk about the foundation and,
I'm not gonna even put anything in about that other, that was.
The
we were
fun-
talking about
Either.
Dan's letter
yep,
and his comments, and we had gotten to the cistern, and then we got derailed, so what?
yeah. Yeah, so, that's how he replied. He says that he doesn't have an opinion about the closed cell phone. I can't get on the internet, so I can't show you that YouTube. But I can send you the link if you wanna watch it. And I really recommend that you do watch it, so you know what, if we agreed to that, you would know what that all looks like.
Dan's comment.
Do you know what the step concept is that he mentions
Yes,
here?
it's, the step concept is four
It's what-
four simple things that you do to prepare
This is it.
the
This
exterior,
is it, Barry. The one that, let me see.
the exterior, repointing. Before the exterior is repointed, Paul McKelk had some suggestions as to how to prepare the surface. One is vacuuming or brooming,
And then
then
washing,
hosing,
and
then
is it-
muriatic acid
It's in
solution.
in the second page.
And then the actual repointing.
Mhm. I don't know if you have that, but you, I think I emailed them to you.
Yeah,
I have it here somewhere.
But we're at the point where Tom Lamb needs to, if we want to offer these suggestions, he needs to know what they are and whether or not he thinks any of them
worthwhile.
are worthwhile, yeah. And I don't know, I guess I don't really know about the closed cell foam insulation.
Oh, these are Dan's.
Do we have an alternative?
Well, we don't, the alternative is to have a concrete face.
What was originally.
The interior, yeah, which
was
is part of
originally
the,
proposed.
yeah, which is
Yeah, I
part
was
of the
gonna say,
proposal.
if we do the other drainage issues, is that necessary? Or we're not talking about having living space down there, we're talking about having heating equipment down there.
You want to
And-
retain heat and you want to get rid of moisture, yeah.
And you
Yes,
want to,
but
there's a
if-
lot of
if-
holes there too.
If the drainage issues, drainage solutions are going to keep 99.9% of the water from flowing in, do we really need to have,
All this concrete.
well, the closed cell foam? Because I thought, we're not talking about having,
Usually it's used for in commercial buildings.
yeah, but I was thinking, we're not talking about using the basement for storing.
Human activities.
Exactly, or storing documents or materials. We're just talking about using it for heating equipment and ductwork and things like that, and I thought, so how much water mitigation or humidity mitigation do we really need to worry about?
Well, if there's leakage in there from the front, you know, through the,
But
through the,
if that
through the
gets fixed, I mean, we're talking about fixing it.
pointing, you know, repointing does not keep the water out, though.
No.
No, but we're talking about putting in potentially French drains and having the water redirected from the rear of the building and the parking lot and the roof of the old town hall. I guess I don't know how much we really need to worry about kind of
They look at
hermetically
the
sealing.
floor, they look at the floor, and they see all the water, that there's been a lot of water going through there. And they make the assumption that it's coming down off the hill and over the ledges and stuff in the cellar, and it doesn't. It comes in through that one place.
Where there's a sinkhole.
And if that were all solved out there, I don't know how much more you'd get in the cellar, but I don't think you'd have much. It always seemed dry in there before we put the water pipe across and that other thing started to happen.
What's the chronology of those two things happening? Will the drainage outside be fixed before
We don't know.
inside?
We don't know.
That's a good
And could-
question
and
that
if
we
we're-
don't have the
And if
answer
there's some
to.
confusion and people think that it might be both of those things, then would it make sense to get that outside thing taken
It would
care
be
of to
great
see
to
if you
get
even
the
need to do
outside
it?
thing
We
done
already
first.
asked that question.
Hmm?
Do you remember Tom Lamb's reply?
What was it?
His reply was,
It
if
doesn't
you-
really matter. Isn't that what
he said, if you do that first, if you correct what you believe to be the problem outside with the poor soil
Mhm.
and the poor grading and whatever, then what you might end up with is redoing the drainage that's been proposed in the other areas, because you've changed,
The situation.
you've changed the
'Cause
situation.
I thought that he had said at one point that it didn't really matter what you did first,
Well,
or that it could be done at the same time. Because I think we had originally said we need to fix the drainage before we do the foundation, and he
Well,
said
no,
not
he-
necessarily.
no,
Mhm.
he said they go together. Yeah, they go together. I don't know if I have,
Barry, can we go back to what you were saying?
When Tom's original plan, before we do that, I'll come back
Yeah.
to you. When we got Tom's original plan, and he had two people representing contractors come in to look at the job. And it was out of them that the suggestion was made, don't do all that work on the outside, just
inside.
repoint the outside walls. Just
Yeah.
repoint them. And not do all that concrete and stuff against them. They were still gonna do the concrete and stuff against the backside, because they were thinking in terms of water coming down the hill, but, they weren't actually seeing it, they were just thinking what happens in a lot of places. And so then we were back to the idea of we've never gotten a plan that actually said, repoint this part and do this to this part. And that's part of what we've gotta get solved, is what we'll actually end up with for a plan. But,
well,
we definitely need to seal up that end where the water comes in now. Even if we fix outside, we should seal up that end, because that, we know, is a place that's been a problem, and sealing up that end will be another way to help to solve that.
Who's gonna
What-
make the plan? I mean, who does that?
we
Whose
have,
job is that?
we already have that plan.
What?
We have the
Yeah,
plan.
we do, that's right.
Which plan?
With
The drainage.
We have the rehabilitation,
Of the foundation.
For the drainage.
yeah, well, for the foundation too, it's all there.
Yeah.
in
That's the
in
one that has the
plan.
pictures of the little rocks.
His plan had concrete against all the walls down cellar, including the front wall,
Yeah, and a slab, the
as well as
slabs.
the slab floor.
So if we make a list now of the things that we wanna talk to Tom Lamb about, or that we want to, because that's what we're really supposed to be doing here, right? We're supposed to be
That's
figuring
right.
out, we're supposed to be figuring out what would we like to discuss with Tom Lamb that we would like to see changed in the plan that he did.
Yeah,
And so,
Well,
what
so
would we,
Barry,
what would
to
that
your
be?
point, one of the things would be to discuss the solutions that the two contractors recommended that were in variance with the original plan.
No. Oh, you mean, well, there was no, the deliverables that we have repoint the exterior. Those came after the two contractors visited. So it may have been their preference before that, but that's not what we're faced with now. The exterior is to be repointed.
I thought it was the interior that we were
I
discussing.
thought the interior was to be repointed too.
The exterior.
No,
It's the exterior.
it's the exterior.
Maybe we're gonna have to get all those documents on the table so we all understand it at the same point, I don't know.
You know what, there's a couple things going on with the cellar though. And one of them is they want the drainage inside.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we're talking about is having the, to having the closed cell foam on the inside, just of the rocks.
Of the outside walls.
No,
The inside,
no.
the inside
The
wall,
closed cell foam insulation is a remedy to keep moisture
out.
out.
So there's two things in the cellar. One is the drainage and then the foam. So if you're saying, what you were saying before.
But the foam isn't an engineering
No, it's not.
suggestion.
No.
It's a suggestion from Paul McKelk.
The
Yeah.
engineering was to repoint the outside, and then I thought it was also supposed to be doing something on the inside.
Right.
Concrete.
Yep, there would be a concrete surface.
But then Barry was saying that the contractors that came in to look at the job weren't recommending to do the inside work, just to do the outside work? Is that what you said, Barry?
I thought they were gonna just repoint the inside. Now, maybe I
the
didn't
inside.
understand what was being said. I don't know. That's
Well,
why
I
I say,
wasn't there
I need
to
to see
hear
the
the
documents in
contractors,
front of me
so-
again.
Starting
because I
from
don't know.
now, if we know what we have at the moment, but we were saying last time when we were meeting over at 1870, I'm curious to know what changes, because in fact, they're in the minutes, I should look those
Well, they're
up.
not changes, they're just suggestions.
Yeah, the
Well,
changes
suggested
that we wanted to
changes.
discuss
Yeah,
wait a
suggestions.
minute,
now
wait a minute, 'cause I
are
didn't-
putting
oh.
in the bulkhead, right?
That's a definite suggestion.
That's the
Okay,
suggestion
so
that needs
let's
to be
write those
addressed.
down. What change? One is the bulkhead, that is a change. Okay,
Well,
and what
And
else was
two,
on that
we haven't
list?
decided that,
No, but I
No.
thought
but
that
it's
that was
been
going to be a
recommended, yeah,
discussion item with him.
yes.
Let me
And,
get it
and
right.
two is taking out the cistern,
Is this what you're talking about?
It's taking out the what?
Suggestions that-
Cistern.
No, I'm
that-
looking at
Kitchen.
the minutes.
Oh, the
cistern.
cistern.
We put, well,
These are-
maybe I
these are
guess
Paul's
Am
I.
I
suggestions, I don't
confusing
remember.
things?
No, I
So,
don't think so.
to me, it makes sense that we work with the, start with the bulkhead, because we can do
Mhm.
that separately, right? Am I correct, or am I not correct? I don't know.
Well, it would have
I
to-
wouldn't say it makes any sense to do it separately. I think it's the same thing. If you're gonna have somebody working there, then that should be part of the job.
Yeah,
I
so,
say it has to be decided where it wants to be put, and then I think to Dan's point, it needs to be designed appropriate to the building.
Well,
but
he just,
that's a suggestion.
yeah,
Yeah, it's appearance, how you make the appearance work.
Well, depending on where you put it, right?
Yeah.
How visible it's going to
But
be.
remember, the deep cellar is only under the front of the house, so you can't put it somewhere around back.
Well, I realize that, but
Yeah.
there's the corner of the front and,
Yeah.
and then there's the corner of the side
Yeah,
Well,
facing the driveway.
It would be the side facing the driveway? Which,
Well,
No.
the stairs go up there now, but
but that's not where you want to put a
So-
bulkhead, is it?
no,
I
we have been thinking that it would go,
observed
just,
that possibility once.
Okay.
just beyond the patio
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
saying that where the cellar, deep cellar exists, is you've got a little corner there.
The west parlor, by
Yeah,
the west parlor.
that's
No, the east corner. She's talking about the east corner.
And it goes across the front, and then there's a little portion on the west corner as well,
Well, with more
where
space
the,
on
where
west.
the oil tank is sitting.
Yes.
I have here the commission members, by the way, this is from the latest minutes, and so
Yeah.
it hasn't been approved yet, but this is what I have written down. The commission members reviewed suggestions for additions and changes to the cellar, including the following possibilities, and possibilities is the key word. One, designing and treating the foundation to protect the walls and allow for drainage of the cellar. Installing a bulkhead for safe and reasonable access to the cellar. Considering the processes available for the repointing of the rock foundation and discussing heating and the last one, not the last one, but this one in this section, is discussing heating solutions. And then the next steps that were suggested include the following. Developing a concise statement about what we want to change in our plan for the cellar. Designing the use of space in the cellar, establishing the kind of heat we will use, talking with Dan Barton, which we did, about changes in the cellar plan, and discuss our thoughts with Tom Lamb. And that's what we came up with after having this kind of discussion that we're having right now. I don't know if that's helpful or not.
Well, we need to get back to Tom Lamb with the suggestions. And if we think any of these suggestions are not worthy, we shouldn't probably include those.
I think that's definitely so.
If people need to read them to figure that out, I can just pass this around, but,
So
And I'm
which-
sorry, I can't show you that, but I can't get on. I need a security key and I don't have that.
You don't have a what?
Security key?
Password.
I could go in, if just for these suggestions, I could.
Is
go
that
in.
all it is?
Let me
Is
see
that all?
Sure.
whether I can get on. I hadn't
It should be
tried
the
to.
password.
I usually
So-
can.
And what are you getting on for? What are you finding?
The
It's a
closed,
It's a YouTube on the application of the closed cell phone
I'm
installation.
right on it.
We're gonna look at that now.
I'm right on it.
All right, so Google, because I can't get my bookmark.
Is this something that we need to watch now for making our decision?
We don't have to, I just suggested it.
Oh. I just wondered if that was, something that we're really sold on, or,
I think that I'm not sold
You
on
need to ask
it.
questions,
I'm not sold on it, I wanted you to see how it's applied, and so that you'd have
some understanding.
some understanding of it.
well, what's the, if you can give us that, we can watch it on our own time, if you don't.
Yeah.
I don't have the link.
Oh, okay,
She's gonna
Um,
forward it to us.
yeah.
oh, yeah, okay, we can do that at home, yeah, that's good.
But
The
that doesn't
bulkhead
help,
question, can we
that
talk?
doesn't help us include it as a suggestion, or not.
Do
Does
we
anybody
wanna do
see
a
suggest-
bulkhead? And if we wanna do a bulkhead, we need to decide where we're gonna put it and so forth. We did talk about it at some length previous, at various times, going back several years. And, I used to be opposed to it because it was gonna go right where the oil tank is. But now everything is all upset and there may never be another oil tank, I don't know. And, therefore, maybe that one I can forget about. I did once talk to the building inspector about the idea of putting a bulkhead where that other door is on the other end of the house and go in that way. In order to do that, we have to upset the old door stone that's there and all of that stuff. And it's also gonna be very narrow between those established old stone walls that are underground. And the more that I thought about it, the less I saw that as an attractive thing to do. Because of all the other things that are happening in that space. If you put it on the west end of the house, under the living room window approximately, whatever, where the oil tank is down cellar, that's a practicable place to put the thing. It's obviously in a visible location, but depending on how high it has to come up on the sides and so forth, and how you design it, and plant something next to it that covers it up a little bit, it should be doable.
Yeah.
And you know, remember that, Dan, in Dan's thing, he says, he suggests some ways that rocks could be used so that you're not looking at this
Oh, yeah.
metal thing. And also that wooden doors, you know, that you could actually
Yeah.
disguise it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you can work on that. And the land is up right at that point, but it also is a steep downhill, and you maybe can work it into that somehow, so it'll work better. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'd have to work with somebody who could figure that
Well-
out for us.
What if we, I mean, there are some companies that do install these bulkheads, what if we had them come out and just take a look at it and make their recommendation on it? To see what we could do.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about how that relates to the idea about trying to camouflage it and all in terms of they're doing
That
a
and-
modern one.
But that's what we can find out, because we could put, you know, we could have some bushes or something like that growing in there, put a fence across, you know, a nice kind of fence of that era there, so that it's hidden a little bit more, and then, you know, do our plantings around that.
And a piece of me would just as soon have a modern steel bulkhead simply because it would really be
I would
good to service and care for.
I would rather I agree with you, because a wood, you know, that means it has to be painted,
You're
it
gonna
has to be.
maintain it
And, you know, I mean, we could build take some of those rocks that are in the cellar and build a little stone wall right in front of it, just because they're not that high off the ground, they're probably like about, maybe that high. You know, any bulkhead that I've seen, I mean, you open it up, and they're maybe not more than 2 feet. And we could build a little stone wall with all those rocks that are in the back, that we're gonna be digging up.
it should be possible to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's gotta be somewhere there, because you don't want it on the front side of the
No.
house.
Well,
I
if we,
can't see any way we could
Yeah.
make it look good there.
if we don't wanna
So-
put a parking spot in front of the house, we sure as heck don't wanna put in a bulkhead.
No,
Now, the bulkhead,
no.
how would the bulkhead, go along with the, well, I was trying to think. How do you get in that door that we say the kids are gonna come in? There's no conflict between them?
Well, there's room enough there to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, that certainly has to be
Because
figured
one would be
out.
at the front of the house and one's at the back.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you'd have to kind of go around
You'd
it.
have to kind of go around it, or come up through the side to it. I think it's doable.
Yeah, I mean,
But,
I'll tell
yes.
you though, as a
Yeah.
teacher, that the kids will be running up the bulkhead and.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
and I think it would be
Especially in the
interesting to
winter,
see
but-
how they're going to put the sidewalks in. If they're going to
Yeah,
take
yeah.
a lot of the front
Oh,
lawn, or whether
yes.
they're going to move the road out.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a design.
Yeah,
No, that's one of the things, that's why when they start talking about they're gonna redo the whole center of town, I go, ugh, because there's an awful lot of that to
Well, we need to have
consider.
input, right? We just need to have input. Yeah.
Awful lot of that to be considered, and you don't wanna mess with things that'll foul up what parking we've got there.
Yes, but we also know
And we don't
that-
want the back of the common made into a parking lot either.
No, but we also know that the current design is flawed.
Oh, yeah.
there's
Okay.
no,
There is no sidewalk between the
No.
town hall and the crosswalk, which
Yeah.
is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
you know, how did they do those bulkheads? I mean, that, you know, where you actually go down the stairs. But then what are you gonna do once we get down the stairs? Because we're talking about, do you know what I'm saying?
Well, you go down the stairs and normally you'll have a door at the bottom of
Yeah,
the stairs
yeah.
that helps to keep the heat in.
And does that jive with the lay of the land?
Oh, that'll work all right.
That would work all right.
That should work all right.
So, it's not like the bulkhead is sticking way up in the air. I
No,
have to
but
go
the end of
picture
it
it.
that's out away from the house may be more in the air than we'd like it. But again, a little fence,
Yeah,
something like
Yeah.
that
I mean,
can take care
I'm
of that.
thinking of my own old house, which, you know, that I grew up in, and it seems to me that the bulkhead Yeah, I mean, it went up a little bit against the wall.
Yeah.
Against the wall of the house, there was a little rise,
Mhm.
but the rest of it was pretty much down low.
Yes,
So, I mean, I gotta go look at a bulkhead, couple
yeah,
of bulkheads.
and the other,
Let's have a field
the other
trip.
piece is the way it'll work into the land there.
Yeah,
And we need to get the dimensions of the thing and lay that out, outside so we can all look
yeah,
at that.
and be standing right there so we can see it.
Yeah.
And talk to somebody who puts bulkheads in and.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, well, that's what I
yeah,
had
yeah,
suggested.
and say, how do you do this? We've gotta do this.
Do you want, I mean, I could get somebody to come out and look if you're interested. I mean, there's a few different places that, just to,
Well, I think that since we're already got some issues, I think we should start with Tom Lamb,
see what he says about a
see what
bulkhead.
he says.
About just generally the changes in the cellar. Okay, so just that,
I mean,
then,
we already have to contact him about a couple of things.
Yeah.
We're gonna contact him about other
all
things
right, so
anyway.
put question mark for Tom Lamb is, come up with a good bulkhead idea for us.
Yeah,
Well, you don't wanna pay for that, probably.
hmm?
Can we,
You might not wanna pay for that.
We might,
Yeah.
we might be able to put it in.
you know,
even.
what, we can do things simultaneously. I mean, we can talk to Tom Lamb about the inside of and then just ask someone what they recommend for a bulkhead.
We could have somebody that does bulkheads come and look at it and give us a proposal.
Yeah.
A simple proposal, which we don't have to accept.
Right,
But that would give us something to work from.
Yeah,
because we
And-
do need to find out this stuff to find, to
It would be,
educate ourselves.
from my point of view, it would be a good idea to just do that. It won't cost us anything.
Okay,
And before we even put that matter to Tom,
yeah,
so that we understand it better ourselves before we do that.
sure.
And that doesn't mean
All
we've
right, I should be
committed to
writing
that
this down
particular
somewhere.
proposal. It just means take a look at it.
So we'll talk to, tell me again now what I was
we're
saying.
just gonna talk to someone who does
Talk
bulkhead
to a bulkhead
insulation.
person.
I mean, I can give call them and see what they're willing, their recommendations, just over the phone, and see if they can come out and give us an
Come out and
estimate
look
and
at it, make a
ideas.
recommendation.
Mhm, okay.
I
So-
think that's fine.
And
Okay.
so Lucy will investigate and come up with, what's their estimate? I mean, I
Yeah.
would think.
Just talk to them about it. I mean,
One of the things that I
How
did,
much do these things cost?
Yeah,
I think that the one, if we put it at the other end where those stone walls are, the thing was gonna be narrower than code
yeah,
and
Mhm.
stuff. And one of the things is, we're gonna put one in, I'd like it to be code. I'd like it to be code, so it's
Right.
gonna be good and easy to use
Right.
and work well for it.
all right.
We're breaking with the tradition of the Bullard House where they would just
Yeah.
kind of hammer things
Yeah.
together.
So Barry, if I have someone come out, would you wanna come out with,
Oh, yeah. I
Okay.
think we should let anybody come that wants to,
Yeah,
of this group.
but I'm not gonna schedule a meeting.
No, we'll
You can
just,
just show up
we'll
if you
just
want.
do it.
Well, I
We'll
think,
do if we have to discuss it, we'll discuss it at the next meeting we have.
Exactly.
yeah, and if we want to have just two people go, I will decline
Yeah,
and let somebody else go, because I don't know anything about bulkheads. I mean, and then if you have two people, you can do it legally.
Oh,
If we just
I
all
don't-
go out together, we're not, you really shouldn't do that.
another
Because you
thing,
know us, we'll get talking about everything else, too.
well, we won't.
another thing
We
that
won't.
is,
You can't do that.
that is related is, in a sense, if we really go to the idea of a heat pump, a big heat pump to go in and work in the ductwork,
Mhm.
you gotta put that condenser outside somewhere,
Mhm.
folks.
Mm-hmm.
And where's that gonna go?
I was gonna tell you, this is a good time to tell you that I've been, in fact, I'm waiting for a call back from, Tim,
Wysocki.
Wysocki,
Yeah.
from Tim Wysocki. I thought, get them involved, because they may know a lot more about this
Yeah.
kind of stuff and what the options are.
Yeah.
Because that's something that's hanging over us, because we're gonna have to make that decision pretty fast. what
We
we're
sure
gonna do.
are.
So I've been working on that a little bit, and, in fact, I hope he's gonna call me back today, but we'll see. And, they may have some ideas.
They may have some suggestions.
Yeah,
I've been gonna talk to Michael Sawyer, I haven't done it, but go down the street and look at the far end of the Sawyer House down here, and he's got
The condenser.
two or
He's got
three
three of
condensers
them,
there
right?
Mhm.
piled up. And, that may be what it takes to do the whole house. I don't know.
But that's a much bigger house.
Hmm?
That's a bigger house.
With the additions that are now on it, yeah, it's a bigger house, but not that much bigger.
Oh, and by the way, I also have talked to 3 different people from Mass Save. And the big question that I have, and it doesn't seem to be a problem for them, is, are we commercial or are we, not domestic, what's the other word?
Residential.
Residential.
We're not residential.
And we're not really
We're
either. We're not
municipal.
making any money off of this, and we're not, so, we're gonna talk about that some more. But I didn't set anything up yet because I wasn't sure what else we need to know. And, I've been,
I had them
Awesome.
come out and do mine. I asked them the question about that, and they said, whoever owns the building has to sign off on it. We don't own the building, but it would be Kristen.
Kristen, yeah, she knows, I've already talked to her about that, and she's all
Yeah.
set to do that, but.
She's the one who has to sign. It's not residential, though. It's,
And
It's
it's,
municipal, as Barry said.
Yeah,
It's
municipal.
It's municipal,
It's
and that's what I
municipal.
need to find out, this woman that I talked, one of the women I talked to wasn't sure. But, is there a category for a public building, for a,
I mean,
municipal?
we talk museum, but it is owned by the town, maintained by the
Mhm.
town, and
Mhm.
and we are, part of the town government,
Yeah,
so therefore
But it was
it's
a former
municipal.
residential building. It was never
Yeah.
a commercial outlet.
No.
and the other thing is,
maybe
I
it
don't know.
was, way back when.
Well, it
No.
was commercial
Yeah.
way back,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not in recent history.
Not in recent history, not when the codes came in.
Not in 200 years much, but,
All
Do
of the
you- do you-
above.
Well, my
Ellie.
question is, do you want me to get back to Tom Lamb with any of the suggestions at this point?
I think we're not quite ready to.
well,
But we need to look at your closed cell thing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
think about that some. I don't know if Tom Land's proposal would still be putting concrete on the inside of the house, this would be an alternate to doing the concrete on those outside walls.
The inside. wall.
Inside.
There would be
Inside
no
wall.
reason to do the concrete and do the,
No,
No.
Closed
no,
cell.
yeah.
so
No,
Paul's
no.
thing was really an alternate on the.
Oh, yeah, definitely an
ceiling.
alternate, definitely an alternate.
Yeah.
one thing I'm shifting back, and I don't wanna change the subject if you're not done.
And if we were to do that on those walls, wouldn't we do the same thing across the back instead of concrete there?
Can you reach it, though?
Hmm?
I'm not sure that you can we get to it? That's a
Well,
good question,
if you can
though.
get to it to put concrete on it, you should be able to get to it to put,
I mean, I'm
It's a good
talking in the
question.
deep cellar, the
Yeah.
deep cellar
Yeah,
walls.
okay.
It really is a whole different concept than he designed for us in the first place.
Yeah, I don't think he'll go for it. I think he'll have some, the things that I've read, if they're true, which, you have to back and fill. One is, you've got to have a really dry environment when you apply
when you
it.
start.
Otherwise, you can have mold, and you'll just,
You cause a whole different problem.
you'll just ruin what you've started out to correct.
Yeah.
The other thing is the smell. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
And whether it
And what-
abides and stays with you. Well, Paul ought to have some thought on that.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna defer
You're not
that
sold on
to
it.
somebody else. If somebody else wants to talk to him about it, that's fine, but I'm sort of at an end, I'm at an end with it.
Yeah, you've got a lot to think about on this. Been doing a lot of work on this.
So,
Now, we have a meeting next week,
Yeah,
Yeah,
A
so
week from
maybe
today.
this is a good time to
so
wind down a
hopefully we can do a
little bit.
few of
Yeah.
these things before
Yeah.
that.
And I'll bring this list back again, well, you'll see it, because,
Yes.
and so next week we can do the
We'll
minutes.
do the minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of when we do it
I
anyway.
have,
But the one thing I did wanna say is that, one of the things that that I'm wondering, a question that I have to ask them before we actually have them do this audit, is they're going to want to, I would think they're going to want to see, leaks and things like that. And how, am I supposed to have the heat up to the normal temperature?
No.
Or
No.
am I supposed to
No.
you just come
They'll-
and
they'll
it's
go
gonna be
in-
icy cold in there, but they
Doesn't matter.
they
That's-
don't care, okay, okay,
They'll,
good.
they'll go into the cellar, they'll look in the cellar, they have this thing, and they'll see where the leaks are in the house where there's no insulation, because I just had it done, they have an x-ray. And then they'll go up in the attic to see what's going on
Yeah,
in the attic.
yeah.
But
But they
they're
don't
not-
care how
no,
cold or hot it is,
No.
okay, good,
no.
because I was thinking how much,
I think it's out of oil again, it's not
Yeah,
warm in
yeah.
there, and I think it's out of oil again, but I'm not worried about it at this season of the year.
it's starting
Besides,
to
if we're
warm.
gonna take that tank out, it's better not
Oh,
to have any
it's
oil in
better
it.
off-
Well,
better
so
off than
it
it is.
sounds like you guys are somewhat interested still in pursuing possible hybrid thing or some kind of, other than oil.
Oh,
Well, I
And-
think that's the way to go.
I mean,
right?
I don't need an exact answer for that, except to say, I should probably
We're
just keep
considering
that.
that.
Yeah, okay, so we'll just keep it wide open,
yeah,
all right.
I'd
But-
leave it open, but I'd say we're considering that,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
a lot of things make me think it makes sense.
And I don't know, what Tim will say, about their background knowledge and all of this, but I would think if they're the Energy Committee, that they would have some good information for us,
Might
at the
very
very
well.
least, yeah,
Might very well.
that could help us.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a couple of things from the CPA.
Oh,
One is, and it's kind of to Lucy's point, they are proposing signage for all of the
Project.
CPA-funded projects. One is a work-in-progress sign,
Mm-hmm.
and then another, these are bigger examples of a finished project sign.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the commission was looking towards having specific language rather than having a generic one. And the language would be selected by the sponsoring committee. So, say the Conservation Commission would decide on their projects, and we would decide on the Bullard House. But having a sign that, for a work in progress, is one of the proposals right now.
Mhm.
Well, actually, it's gone beyond a proposal. I think that
Yeah.
we've decided that that's a good idea. They're still deciding on the size. I think they're having Assabet do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And Wayne Texera is working with them to kind of figure out how big. I think we thought that 3.5 by 2 3/4 feet is a little large, but we also want it to be visible from the road when people are driving by,
Yeah.
whatever project
I
it is.
don't think that's too big.
No, I don't think that's good.
Well, I thought, to Lucy's point, it would be nice to have someone know that we are working
here.
on something.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it would be
You
great.
may
Oh,
not be
yeah.
seeing it,
Oh, yeah.
but we're
Mhm.
working on it.
Yeah,
And I had said, I think that the Bullard project is right in the center of town, it's
Yeah.
it's
it's a
necessary.
good kind of thing to have up.
Yeah, and then having something as a final project,
Yeah,
smaller, and we'd have to decide if we wanted to put it on the house
Where you
or
wanna
whether we
put it
want,
and
yeah, have it separate. But the other thing that is coming up, and you may know this, Janet, is that Tim Wheeler has gotten one of the state people to come, and they're going to be giving a kind of a training seminar
okay.
on the 21st of May. It's going to be open to anybody, but Tim would really like some of the
People on
commissions
Custer
that are affected by this, recreation and
Mhm.
historical and conservation to come, so to learn about where does the money come from, how does it get calculated, what can it be used for, how does it get dispersed, and kind of get an understanding of what this funding
Yeah.
really means and how we can use
Mhm.
it.
When is that?
that's
It's gonna be the 21st of May, and it's gonna be at the 1870 Town Hall. I think he said 6:30, but we're planning to feed people, supper, a
Oh.
small supper beforehand. I
Oh.
think they're gonna
Oh,
get.
it's a supper. I thought it was just refreshments, okay.
Well, I
It's a
think they're
supper.
going to get sandwiches and
Sandwiches,
beverages and
good.
cookies
Yeah.
from the store.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right, that's
What
right.
okay.
date is that? I mean, the 21st is
I think it's a Tuesday. So, the 21st of
That's
May.
nice.
So, I will be there, but if
Yeah.
I'd
more
wanna
of you
be
want to
there.
come, I think they're gonna be sending out an email and asking for people to sign up so that they know how much food to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, if you just wanna come,
But it's
at
good for us to
6:30.
have anybody that's likely to apply to
Well-
have the knowledge so that what they do fits the system
yes,
better.
so that we're not, the
Teaching all the
CPA
time.
committee isn't having to go through and say, that doesn't, we can't fund something like that. I think we
Yeah.
had that problem with the guys that came about the irrigation of the sports fields. They wanted us to buy, they wanted to replace all the netting and the stuff, and it's like, the sports equipment, you can't use the CPA funding for that.
Oh,
You
okay.
have to go figure
Yeah.
that out someplace else. We can help you with,
This part, but we
yeah,
can't
some
do
of it,
that.
but not all of it. So
Mhm.
I think it's understanding how much the town gets and why they get what they get, and then what it can be used for, and when it can be dispersed, and whatever that.
That would be,
We might
That'd be
start
really
getting some
good.
competition for the historical money.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I was thinking, to talk,
Let's not.
we have it for the foundation, but we haven't done anything yet, and I think you're talking about grants, but for the external and
Mhm.
for,
Yeah.
some of that,
Well-
we're gonna need more than what we've got right now.
We want to spend some of what we've got so that
Well,
we're
bingo,
showing them
yeah.
some product
Exactly,
before
so-
we go for the next part.
Exactly, so,
And I'm
we
always-
wanna have that sign out there, and we wanna have some
Yeah.
work done.
June's project on the documentary stuff and getting it on the internet and all that is one thing that we've been doing.
Yeah.
And have made progress on. And we've still got a couple of other things to suggest later for the paintings and stuff, which are also. I got a thing about the town seal. I'll talk to you about it after the meeting.
Have
Should
you-
we adjourn? you think? Oh, no,
Well,
are we not done?
I don't want to discuss it, but the planning board member, Jay Teach,
Yeah.
has a signage, I think is it a warrant article already? To have have an electronic sign in the,
Oh.
oh, good Lord.
I think that-
There's a warrant article for electric sign, lighted from within thing. The school department wants one for the Memorial School, and they found out they couldn't do it under the current sign bylaw. So there's a proposal under the sign bylaw to allow two of them, one for the school and one for the town somewhere up in the village. I thought to myself, don't come near me with the idea.
well, we need to be aware.
But that's there, and they've got a thing where it'll have to be a black background and lighted letters as opposed to a lighted sign with bright, a whole
Yeah.
bunch of other stuff.
No
They've
neon.
got some restriction on it, but, yeah, it's something for people to be aware of, and we don't allow that kind of thing in the town at all, and the school department's the one that's been pushing it, so that's how it's happened, and then somebody got the bright idea that, well, we'll have one somewhere uptown for messages too. But yeah, that is on the warrant.
It's totally inappropriate for this village center.
Well,
Yeah.
I find them very unsafe. I don't try to read them, because if I did, I'd drive off the road.
Well, no,
If they switch,
have
if
you
they
seen the
change.
one in
I don't know
Hudson?
if this is gonna be a changing sign
I-
or not.
I don't-
Outside the armory?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's annoying.
it's annoying.
Where?
It's outside the armory.
Do we
Oh,
want to,
okay.
As you're going up
stop
Washington
this
Street.
meeting?
Yeah, we don't need to discuss this, I
We're-
just wanted you to be aware.
Yeah.
We're still being recorded here, right?
Yeah, we're still in the meeting.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we
we
need
were
a
just
motion to
discussing the
adjourn.
CPA
I,
signage.
yeah, that's great. I
That's a
like
good,
that.
that's good.
I like that.
Is there a deadline for any,
No,
No, I was just supposed to
Text.
bring it to, the committee
Yeah.
so that you'd understand, and also
Thank you for
get
doing
you
that.
on board
Yeah.
with, hopefully a couple of you coming to the May
I'll
21st
go.
meeting.
I've got it
I think the
marked.
May 21st meeting is the next meeting we have, because the town meeting
yeah,
gets into
just,
where we would
May
normally,
6th.
yeah.
yeah,
meet.
it's before that. I move to adjourn.
Second.
Second, and it is now.
All those in favor?
3:20.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.